but obviously still Jin being his most played AD carry, extreme comfort for him there. What do you think about the ban adaptations coming out from Red Team 1 here? Even though we haven't seen NSG Forsaken play a single one of the characters that they've banned so far.
I think the Nocturne ban is actually quite interesting. Um, I guess they are trying to, well, Nocturne's just really strong in general in his comp, especially with his ultimate. So it makes sense that they're going to be go ahead and ban him as well. They're
They've shown extreme flexibility between in the Nocturne position, so there's no surprise. And then the Galio, so they're really trying to disable some of the dive threats that we've seen have an insane amount of success so far in this tournament. And earlier in the tournament, I asked to develop a tournament meta, and I asked whether that would be the possibility here. As we see the first pick Lulu here, the comfort pick for Loon, this is our most played champion, and a first pick is indicating a very, very different draft from what we have seen so far.
Yeah, the Lulu pick is actually it's indicating that they're trying to play safe or play anti-dive or anti-assassin against the other team, which of course we saw yesterday play Parker with the LeBlanc. He could pull out other assassins as well. So I think it's a very safe, good first pick, and this could be top or it could be in support as well. So it's very versatile as well.
Well, yesterday Sanix played one of his very first Fiddlesticks games and managed to do an absolutely outstanding performance. Even while clearing the camps, it looked like he was so well practiced on it, executing both of the difficult 2-camp clears on Fiddlesticks. This time around, he will be facing a Xin Zhao, so Fiddlesticks feels very rough to pick into that. Let's see what NSG's second answer is to the Red Team 1's Lulu first. And there will be a Nautilus that does provide a lot of engage coming out from that support position.
Yeah, it's a very interesting pick. I think those are two good first picks by them. They both are. It makes it kind of clear actually as well what they're looking for as well with Nautilus and the Zinjao. They're leaning more towards the dive kind of comp, I think, in my opinion. But we'll see how RT1 responds though.
That we will indeed. And dive comps, as I said, have an insane amount of success. And the Rengar pick. Now we're getting into the real spice. Obviously, RT1's top laner is named Rango in Bush. So we will be seeing whether Sanix or will be piloting that, or whether that will go into the hands of Rango here. Might lead to another interesting naming situation. And then the Kaiser from Toto comes out once more. So this is, I believe, the third time that he's found play on the Kaiser, and he's looked extremely comfortable the first 2 times around, really supporting the dive threats that his team has provided him. Rengar as well, being someone that can dive a team extremely well. So we'll see whether they try to play their Rengar that way, and what the rest of the team comp will be augmented with. Now the answer for the top lane will be the Tahm Kench, probably expecting that Rengar to be up there. And I think the Rengar has an extremely tough matchup into TK.
Oh yeah, for sure. Top Kench right now is really strong. Top lane and Rengar, he does well on champions that he can burst down. And Top Kench, unfortunately, is not a champion that you can just burst down, fortunately. So let's see if they stick with the Rengar top, because they could transition him somewhere else, either into the jungle or in bot lane as well. But yeah, as of right now, I think it's the Kai'Sa pick is also. I actually do like the Kai'Sa pick a lot. Into right now, it's a very safe pick as well. We've also seen Jin before be very comfortable on this Kai'Sa as well. So I think it's a very good pick by RT1 for their third pick at least.
Well, the AD carry on the side of NSF also has the name Kai'Sa in his name. Also has Kai'Sa in his name, so that even indicates that that is a pick away from that player, as I believe that there has been a little bit of role swapping going on, as the support for the side of NSG Forsaken is not actually able to attend today's game.
And the final round of bans just came out, and I think the Iron ban is quite interesting as well. So that's a surprise to me at least, because you rarely see Iron bans at least.
Well, Sanix has played some pretty strange junglers throughout this game already. So we will be seeing whether he will pick up another interesting choice, and that Rengar could still go into his hands. Then on the other side, we now see a Callista lock in, and I love to see Callista, but it has not found success yet. And so we
I
will
think
have to
with the
wait and
comp
see.
that NSF has right now, it is a very strong pick. Actually, NSF comp is looking really, really strong right now. RT1, they might need to pick out something that will have like anti-engage in here. Oh, Trundle's not too bad actually. Final pick is actually it'll take away the Tom Kench stats as well as the Nautilus like Xin Zhao. Um, he'll just have to. We'll see how it plays out. I'm trying. He might be top or it might be support actually, so we'll see how that turns out.
Well, where would that put the Lulu? I think this might be a Trundle in the jungle, a Lulu support, and that may be augmented. And then a Rengar top lane. And now we might see, yes, the Twisted Fate in the mid lane. So, that is... Tell me, but what does this comp want to achieve here from the side of Red Team 1? Because beforehand we saw a lot of coordinated dive, and this time around it looks like a very different comp.
It does look like a very different comp. I'm trying to narrow it down, and it looks like they're trying to go for a one shot, like one shot, not lockdown into the Kalista, and hopefully, once they get that, they're able to engage more on top of it. The TF pick though makes it very interesting. I guess they're trying to look for some mid game map presence at least, but NSF they just picked out the Orianna, and uh, NSF they have a really strong comp right here, and I struggle to see how RT1 will be able to fight against the NSF comp actually. But it was there and RT1's comp is still very strong in that sense though.
Well, we do see that there is coherent team fighting coming out from the side of NSG Forsaken. However, Red Team 1 have drafted themselves a pick comp. This is a comp that is unbelievably good at singling out a target in the jungle, and with picks like the Twisted Fate, that is actually a reality that we might be facing this time around.
Yes, I agree. The TF pick is definitely. I hope they do utilize it a lot, especially with the Rengar too. Lulu Rengar combination during late game, that speed up is actually insane. And Lulu as well, it's really well into their comp actually. It can save the Kaisa, it could buff up Trundle, it could save the Rengar, buff up the Rengar, you know. So Lulu is actually really good. And not only that, her ultimate will be very useful against the anti-engage against the NSF comp, which has Xin Zhao, Nautilus, Tom Kench. You know, all these champions are going to be diving in and you followed up by Orianna ult or
And
a
let's
Kaisa
not
ult.
forget how good a polymorph is in a situation where you're being dived on. The X factor that could come out for the side of NSG Forsaken is the one carry that doesn't really intend to fight in the midst of everyone else, which is the Orianna. Yes, that does also leave her in a lot of vulnerable positions, but it does mean that once you're diving in and you may be polymorphed or knocked up or anything of that sort, that the Orianna will still land the shockwave if the ball is placed on top of you. So that is definitely some amount of availability here for the side of NSG Forsaken and some amount of flexibility as well. But let's start talking a little bit more about these matchups in a more in-depth way. Trundle has risen in popularity in recent patches, where Xin Zhao has obviously been at the top of the meta for quite a few. How do you expect this jungle matchup to play out?
I think it will be very quite interesting at least. Trundle Jungle is something is it's such a flip coin in my opinion. It either pops off really well or it just doesn't. So I think it'll be really situational on how his team is able to respond to wherever Trundle is pathing to. In my opinion, I think Xin Zhao still has the better upper hand in this matchup in terms of wave clear and being able to in early game presence as well.
So, if Trundle is a coin flipper, then what is Xin Zhao to you?
Xin Zhao is just he looks for early game engages and he looks for early game fights in order to snowball his lead. Trundle does the same, but unfortunately he lacks a bit of the early game damage. His pillar is still useful, but he relies on his team for follow up at least. So
Do you
yeah,
think that
that's
the
really the
lanes
difference.
from RT1 do provide sufficient follow-up for that Trundle to maybe find some success in the side lanes?
Well, TF is definitely the stun card is very useful, so it'll be very good follow-up. Rengar as well, if they're fighting in the correct area where he has the bushes to just stack up with his Q, WE, as well. If it's just in the middle of the river, though, this Rengar might struggle a bit, in my opinion. He'll still do a lot of damage, but if it's up against the, the Ori or the Tom Kench, it might be a bit difficult.
So, what angles of attack do you see for the side of NSG Forsaken where they may be able to push their advantage that you see in the jungle matchup at the moment?
I think NSF they're definitely going to be looking from some early engages in the top lane. Tom Kench and Zhao. This is going to be impossible to kill, especially with just Rengar top by himself. Yeah, I think even with Trundle, Tom Kench and Zhao still out if played correctly, but we'll see how that turns out. NSF though, they're definitely looking for some early game fights and engages, definitely in order to snowball their lead as well.
Do you expect there to be any level 1 shenanigans coming out from the necessity of the early game fights that you see?
I definitely think NSF will try and they should be able to look to make any early game cheeses if they plan to. They have Nautilus Hook to follow up. They also have Tom Kent, Vision Zhao and Tom Kench follow up, but it centers more around Nautilus. RT1 they don't really have anything to really land unless Trundle decides to start E. But if he starts his pillar, then I don't really know how he'll be able to farm in the jungle at level 1.
Yeah, indeed. The only tool that is really powerful coming out from the side of RT1, or I guess there are a couple tools, which is, first of all, the bush mechanics coming out from a Rengar, the amount of stacks that you can actually gain coming out with a Rengar passive, and the availability to choose and to pick and choose whatever target you want once it comes to a big brawl in the jungle is obviously very valuable. From the TF, you have the possibility of starting out with pick a cards, which does mean that there is a lot of different variations that you could see played out in a team fight. You could land a big AoE slow for some damage, but you also have the possibility of stunning just one target. Then we have from the Kai'Sa, from the AD carry position, the isolated Q that actually deals a tremendous amount of damage once you actually manage to land all of the Void Seekers. I don't know. No, it's a Cathian Rain, I believe that is the Q, onto one target. And then the Lulu W, the Polymorph, extremely valuable as well. We do focus a little bit more on level 1 as we've seen some interesting strategies already played out for these teams. But over the course of the last few days, that has become less and less of a reality. So let's instead talk a little bit about what you expect to see coming out from the two junglers in terms of pathing.
Yeah, I think Trundle will probably start his reds first and start to path up. I expect Xin Zhao to possibly do the same with the start his blue and path up to his red. I think top fight is going to be definitely a possibility. Or top fight might be a possibility as well in this scenario. If Trundle doesn't want to look for that early game fight, he might start blue as well and just path bot. But in terms of topic, it could go either way. I think they'll try and I obviously we saw this both of these junglers yesterday be able to keep track of the enemy jungler. So it'll be interesting to see how they decide to start on that.
That will indeed be very interesting to see, and we've not seen a lot of success coming out from the enchanters picked so far in the SLE, but Loon has proven twice before that she's actually managing to make support picks work. So once again, let's look to understand what Red Team 1's game plan is and how it maybe differs from what we are seeing in the draft beforehand.
So I think at the stuff their game plan is at least is to find some early game fights, or at least they're supposed to be looking for the engages or the fights. Their whole comp is centered around engage. If the other team is able to engage on them first, it's going to be very difficult for them to try and counter engage, because the other team, it's just very snowbally if they're able to be engaged first. If Rengar gets a kill first, if Trundle is able to get first, if Kai'Sa's able to stack first, it's not going to be panning out well for NSF. But NSF, if they look for early game fights, then boost RT1 is it RT1? Can't remember. Blue side will definitely have to try and figure a way out to try and respond, but I think they have an okay comp to try and respond to. whatever NSF has.
Well, Rengar top lane is obviously a very uncommon pick as we are
Yeah,
transitioning into the game right here.
it is an uncommon
Just
pick, and I've played a fair bit of Rengar in the bot lane at least, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays up in the top lane. I have seen it happen in my solo queue games, and it just if he's able to get a lead and snowball, then the game is pretty much unstoppable from that point.
Well, two blobs of players are moving down towards the bot side, so maybe all our talk about level 1 will finally find some fruit. Do you see anything interesting in the itemization or keystone choices?
I think well, TF brought unspelled the spell book, so that is definitely interesting. I don't know if that's
Oh,
pretty
this
easily.
does look to be a big brawl. The ward spots both of them out. Loon gets hooked first, but now there is more damage traded onto Drown as he will fall for the first kill. But the fight is not over yet. Trundle finds a second kill as Kalista finds her return onto the Trundle. Rengar flashes away as he just about survives. Now there's 2 versus 2 still going on. Exhaust comes out onto the Kalista here, who does flash over the wall. Flash after from Wolven King here as Toto tries to barely trade with the Orianna, and all of them find the kills as Rengo decides to be the hero, come back into the fight, and actually make Toto survive. That was a crazy level 1 fight that ends up with 5 kills already in favor of Red Team 1 here, and now their inventories are gonna be stacked.
That is absolutely insane, especially for both the Trundle and the Rengar. Trundle already started off with Sheen, and Rengar, I think he got 4 stacks from his passive from that fight
He
too, so he already
starts
has.
with a Sheen. Are you kidding me? He's not even done a single camp and he has a Sheen? Oh my goodness, this is going to lead to some absolutely insane pathing, and we are going to have to see how the comp from Red Team 1 will look to continue playing here. A crazy level 1 flip has, in the past, not led to a win. So we will have to see if that remains a possibility here for the side of NSG Forsaken, who do find themselves in some favorable laning matchups across the map, as Kalista is already looking to find some aggression alongside her Nautilus, who does ignite Loon down here, and Toto may now be caught out by Arvid, but does both of them flash, and Toto manages to live.
That's actually pretty insane considering the level 1 fight. They both still had their flashes up and had their sums up as well. But Trundle, he's speedrunning it. He's already going to the enemy's red side to
Oh
go
my
ahead and steal the
goodness.
red buff.
What a
And
beautiful spot here. And you are correct. I have been asking for more level 2 ganks, especially from these Zinzaos. But that does mean that he does pay with the 3 buff start. Sanix with some absolutely cracked jungle pathing off the back of his Sheen. And yeah, now the top lane is also looking in a lot of danger as the wave has been pushed into Rengo here, and Trundle is up here to try to punish it. He uses a sweeper, sees that there is no ward around, and now Loris has to be very careful. The second minion wave comes in here as Rengo has his stacks up, and Trundle tries to interrupt the Tahm Kench but does not manage to do so. Also, the flash still available for Loris here means that he does get available even without using it after a nice usage of that W.
Yeah, that was probably the best they were gonna ever get out of top lane because of the Tahm Kench W, and he still has flash up as well. But it was good way to establish his presence on the map already. So we'll see what Trundle does next, but he's
Ooh, Zinzao
oh
is once again down here, trying to punish the flash of both Loon and Toto, but does not find it yet. Now Trundle, however, is up here in the mid lane, as he does get a couple of auto attacks and the red buff proc onto the Orianna. Zinzao says hi to him, but there's no way that he wins that fight. Rengo and the Tahm Kench in Loris trading up towards the top side. I'm really enjoying the new Rengar skin, by the way. I think it's a beautiful skin, but that is highly
yeah, it is
unprofessional.
a beautiful Rengar skin. Also, this Trundle is also beautiful in its all its glory as well.
You are certainly correct about that. Now we can see whether Rengo can actually make use of that early advantage that he has managed to secure himself. Only the longsword coming out for him, so the biggest benefactor obviously being that Trundle, which we've mentioned copious amounts of times. Now, missing that cannon is Rengo. He's gonna get flamed for that.
We'll
Oh,
see.
hook
Oh,
lands onto Loon here. And that just means that she goes down in the 2v2 as quick as that. A huge overstep here. Toto still posturing aggressively because he does have the Trundle around. And Drown kind of feels like He's kind of sniffing it out that there might just be someone right there.
Yeah, it was a good instinct by him with Kai'Sa just
Ooh,
stepping up
as I
like
say
that
that,
without
Toto
support.
is engaged on, and here comes the flash pillar from Sanix, but it does not lead to anything further because Drown still has had his flash available.
Yeah, this Trundle trying to establish his early lead, but he's ganked all 3 lanes without success so far. Has burned a good few summer spells, so it's a total waste. But yeah, it's just unfortunate. But he still has a good lead over the Xin Zhao right now. He needs to go ahead and start clearing some of his camps as he's doing right now. Xin Zhao just backed and he went ahead and already
I
completed one
don't
of his
know if
legendary
he
items.
still has a tempo over the tempo lead over the Xin Zhao here, as the amount of camps is even, and Xin Zhao has managed to grab himself its mythic component already at 5 minutes, so he's already gotten through with the reset, and that means that even though, yes, he's a camp up, the reset timing for the side of Arvid was a lot better here. Another reset will now be coming out from the side of NSG Forsaken spot lane.
Oh,
As
this is
Toto
a
is
good
coming
call, I think, by
back
Zin.
into the lane. Oh, you are spotting that out very nicely, as we should pan over to the man himself, who's trying to start up the dragon. And even though his bot lane has just base, there is very little knowledge around the map, and none of the lanes are actually moving towards him. So that will be a dragon snuck from under the noses of Red Team 1. Arvid with a nice little proactive move, punishing the over-aggression that came out from Looney, where she did get hooked and died.
Oh, but Trundle's coming around.
Oh, you are spotting that out correctly. Once again, he does smite the dragon, but now he is in a precarious situation. Has the flash available, but Trundle is grading him on the other side, and Toto finds his first kill of the game.
Yeah, Zin got the dragon, but other side got his life. So it's an okay trade, beating the early dragon, especially for Mountain Drake as well. But he's about to be punished for it. His Trundle was about to go ahead and take his blue, sending him either further behind.
Well, Xin has so far received a single of his buffs, and even though this one does go to Loon, that does seem like a bit of an advantage gained, as now they're looking for an aggressive maneuver onto the Trundle as the reset from the Xin Zhao is coming out as well. TF now using the Destiny Gate to at least try to help out the fight. And the shockwave does connect on 2 people once again. Parker trying to step up and make things happen. Looney going down as the second casualty of the fight, as finally they find a kill back. A TP coming out from the side of Rengo, now trying to chase with that ultimate available. Does jump onto the Callista, but she flashes away, and so Rengo will just die. Toto trying to dish out the damage from the Blackhand. Very low mana on that Orianna, so can Toto continue to go forward? He flashes forward. Cathian Rain does not finish off either of those kills, but now he's standing still auto-attacking, as he does finally find the kill with the chase down potential of his E. So a crazy fight in the end, a 3-for-3, I believe.
Yes, that was actually a really good catch by Red Side, at least, to be able to catch up to Trundle. And then, yeah. But Blue Side, they did a good job of catching him out, but they used, I think, too much resources on him because they didn't have any follow-up damage to catch out the carries, which was both TF and Kai'Sa, and they were just able to output the rest of the damage to catch up the rest of their team.
And
But it was
now
still a
Toto
really
is
good
looking
catch by them.
scarier and scarier. And yesterday he has been an absolute massive carry for that team with the amount of damage he's been able to put out so far. And the team has peeled for him quite well so far. However, Loon once again also one of the people that got caught with their pants down, and a little bit unfortunate for her.
Yeah, I agree, but it's shaping up to be for Blue Side at least they're looking for their carries are in a really, really strong position. So as long as they fight along with the carries, they should be able to win any of the fights that they are able to play against as long as they don't stand in the middle of the Ori ult. But as I said, we saw last fight, they had a really good, Red Side had a really good lockdown engaged to lock down both the Trundle, the Lulu, and on the TF as well. They just whacked really damage to kill.
Now we have a
off the
jungle
TF.
skirmish going on, and top lane for Red Team 1 has priority, as Rengo is already here and waiting. They don't contest this buff any further, but they're stealing time away from the Xin Zhao. Will this be another buff given over, as the red buff's pathing is completely messed up by their pillar, going all the way around it, and Wolven King has now snuck in here without the knowledge of Arvid, who now utilizes the crescent sweep, but Renko can just jump in there. Wolven King walks into the range, and Wolven King finds his 4th kill of the game. TF is now really going to snowball and going to complete his Everfrost sooner than he ever imagined. Loon this time around sidestepping the hook, and that does mean that a bit of damage is traded back onto Drowned here. But we can see how the Nautilus is looking to punish that first pick Lulu.
Yeah, this Arvin guy is not having a good day right now. Good game right now, at least. He's just been counter jungle the whole game. He's 0-4. He hasn't been
Ooh, here
successful
is
on any of the
another
picks
hook
like
towards the
Hugo.
bot lane, and yet just another one-shot coming out from the side of the bot lane of NSG Forsaken. Meanwhile, we see also Sanix trying to potentially dive that mid lane in the Orianna, and he will just go down and not quite survive. So a failed dive, and this is now going all the way back towards NSG Forsaken, who are in a bit of a gold deficit, but with the pressure they have mounted now, they might look for further aggression, as they do find the kill under the turret of the Kai'Sa. And if I'm not mistaken, yes, the TF has gone to TP into this bot lane and is now trying to catch out these members. In the top side, we also see trading between Rengo and Loris, and Loris finds the kill, whereas TF is entirely unsuccessful in his bot lane play, does not use the Destiny Gate, and the wildcards will be sidestepped here from the Nautilus.
Yeah, that was actually really well played by Red Side, at least, to catch up. They almost got the Kai'Sa, but she managed to ult out, so really well played by Toto to be able to get out from there. On top side, it looks like Rengar is no longer able to contest this Tom Kench, at least. But so I think Rengar, at least, he's going to into this bruiser kind of build, which I think is the correct call, and since he's not going to be able to one-shot any of the carries without being
Ooh,
able to
Toto does
snowball the
not
team.
like Arvid taking this buff, and even though he does manage to secure himself the Eye of the Herald, he will flash over the wall. No follow-up available for Toto here, and he's just a few seconds behind the play. Now the dragon is coming up, and with Toto's position in mid lane, that might mean that they get a pretty easy shove in here, as Parker's actually managing to secure it with the availability of that Orianna damage.
Yeah, I'd just like to also point out this Nautilus has been landing some really good hooks and really good follow-up damage by the Red Side as well. But here we go.
Now there is the Destiny Gate already coming out, but Wolven is actually the one that's caught out here. A huge overextension here from him, and him giving over that shutdown is also very, very brutal for them. Toto does not like that they're clearing the ward here, but Drown's hook will go wide this time around.
I think there's a bit of some miscommunication between the TF and the rest of the team right there. But
Oh, Sanix's pillar will not find any further follow-up, as the Orianna remembers what happened last time, and another solo kill coming out onto Sanix from the side of Parker here. He had a tremendous game yesterday, and this is two incredibly botched gank attempts from the side of Sanix here.
yeah, Parker is really showing up again. He had a really good game yesterday. He's having a really good game here today as well.
Well, I do know that Sanix is one to be affected by the mental state of the game sometimes. So we have to see whether the early lead that Sanix had been up to, and now with just 4 deaths in a row for him, whether that cracks him up, or whether he is able to maintain focus and lead his team to victory.
Yeah, we'll have to see during the fights, but after getting solo killed mid lane, I think that would set anyone to be kind of tilted or off their game like that as well. So we'll see how that turns out. We could go ahead and see that there's some swaps with the lanes, so it's Kalista going top, go against the Rengar.
But Toto does pick up some turret plates for himself right now. Arvid is in position, and with the availability of the Tahm Kench W, Toto is in a lot of danger here. He does have the ult and flash available, so he does use the ultimate first and does not need to utilize the flash, as the exhaust had already come out. Tahm Kench W is still up, so here it comes. Destiny Gate onto Toto directly, as the Destiny Gate will be enough to protect Toto from having to use his own flash.
Yeah, it was a good escape by Toto, and a good utilization of this exhaust as well to be able to escape from that. Fortunately, he wasn't able to get a few things off, but he wasn't able to get anything much out of that. But I think it's interesting that they sent Trundle mid lane.
Oh no, not 3 times! Are you kidding me? This time at least Parker will be punished for it. But this is the 3rd kill on Sanix. Are you kidding me? That is just not allowed. Absolutely illegal behavior here, as now they're trying to punish Arvid as well. Tahm Kench and Loris coming in here a little bit late and not quite able to protect, as Loon and Wolven King are trying to wrestle the control of the game back into their favor, as gold card after gold card comes out from Wolven here.
Yeah, it was unfortunate for Sanix again, but Oriana was still able to get the kill. Fortunately, got she kicked off by the TF, but this TF is looking really, really large right now. It's 6 kills, 107 CS. It'll, he is absolutely massive right now.
He is indeed, and we do see that now Wolven is in possession of a huge chunk of the gold. If we check, he has the TF passive as well, and even though Parker has found himself 3 solo kills onto the Trundle, he's still behind 600 gold. But the biggest benefactor of all the gold in this game is, of course, that Kalista, who's already sitting at 8,000 gold at 15 minutes into the game. 2 completed items, the boots. This is a snowballing Kalista, and that is the scariest kind of Kalista.
It is a series kind of gets the and with their whole comp that they have centered around, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to try and at least to get on the Kalista at least because they don't have anything to say on her
Well,
aside
they
from the
do
Rengar, but that
have
could
the
be
Trundle Pillar, which is an extremely effective tool against Callistas, as it does not only knock them out of position, but also slows them down tremendously. And that really messes up the movement from that passive.
that is a good point. If this Trundle does not get deleted by the Oriana again, though, so we'll see how that turns out. But Xin Zhao, he's been able to still make a little bit of an impact in the game despite what his core line says. Dragon's going to be coming up in about 40 seconds, so we'll start seeing some vision being thrown down around the at least blue side and red side at least. Right now, no side has really taken command of that yet,
Well, what does
but we can
happen
see
now
the
is that we
pings on
indeed we
the
can, and Arvid is a little bit is coming directly with his Oriana, but Red Team 1 has already taken control of the river here, so that is something to take note of, as Rengo is starting to clear out vision around it as well. 3 control wards directly around the Dragon Pit, even 4, I believe, yes indeed, as they're spotting out one of the control wards put down from the side of NSG Forsaken, and they're beginning to take some river control of their own, clearing out 1 control ward and placing down some more vision. The Oriana shockwaves so far this tournament have been absolutely massive, as some of the people are simply not respecting the
they blue side needs to be careful how they engage this with their Oriana ult at least.
Indeed, but now the dragon will go into the hands of NSG Forsaken as Red Team 1 decides that the contestation is not worth it.
Yeah, it's difficult for blue side to try and engage in because there isn't much they can do with
But
all the lockdown that they have.
there also isn't much that they can do in a 1v1 scenario, because the Tahm Kench simply beats the Rengar, and the Oriana is so unbelievably ahead of the Twisted Fate that it's looking pretty rough. Now they are also going to transition their pressure over to the second Rift Herald of the game and really starting to turn up the tempo. The gold lead has also flipped in their favor a couple of minutes ago. That means that they are now ahead in gold as they begin to pick up objective after objective. And even though Red Team 1 came up to a great early lead, we might yet again see someone fall down after a beautiful level 1.
And that's that they've been moving around the map together as well, which is absolutely beautiful. They all move together from Dragon to Herald together to prevent blue side from trying to engage still. RT1, they need to find a way to try and make it engage by either by a pick or by a flank, but right now they just can't run it, or otherwise they'll just get blown up by this Oriana ult.
And not just the Oriana ult, but also the damage coming out from the Kalista. How do you feel about the Kalista going for the Phantom Dancer instead of the Runan's Hurricane?
I think it's the correct choice. It could go either or. In this scenario, though, she's going to be having at least, either Rengar TF right on her, possibly the Trundle. So it's a good choice to go ahead, go with the Phantom Dancer for that bonus movement speed as well. Especially against the Trundle pillar as well.
The movement speed only is not that effective for her. However, what it does really do for the Kai'Sa is that it allows her to more so chunk really tanky members. And there's of course the Trundle that does take a lot of armor and magic resists away from your team, but other than that, the Rengar is the tankiest member, and I don't know if you ever want to be freely auto-attacking a Rengar. Now there looks to be a bit of a collapse coming out from the side of Red Team 1 as they huddled up as 5, and Parker is a little bit behind the play as he's just about to come into mid lane. Doesn't have that TP available, but now they are looking to ARAM it.
Yes, this is a correct call, especially with do they still have Herald? They especially with Herald still up on them. Baron's gonna spawn in about 8 seconds, so they could also they have such good control they could probably even take Baron as well, especially with the Kalista Jackson's worth on it. But it looks like they're just gonna go ahead and push mid. They're dropping the Herald.
They are indeed, so they might be looking for this turret, and then they might look to turn their pressure around. As Arvid is already standing behind everyone else, sort of indicating where he wants to go, and he's taking the team with him at the moment. And they are going to walk over a ward from the side of Red Team 1, as Horse especially also finds the second ward and does clear that out for now. Then places a ward of his own, as Loon and Rengar are now trying to contest some of the vision that is available around the Baron pit here for the side of NSG Forsaken.
Yeah, I would like to see this Rengar try and get in a flank rather than be on this team. Oh, but
Destiny
yeah.
Gate here from the TF. He's trying to interrupt the recalls, but Minecraft Drowned does hook him into the turret. Toto tries to fly in, but it's not even close. It's not even
Yeah,
close.
it's not even
This
close.
is desperation, and now it's getting real scary because now they've blown 2 very important cooldowns for the side. 3 even with the Lulu Wild Growth coming out, and now it's kind of all falling apart for the side of Red Team 1. Sanix is trying to somehow turn it back around as they don't even find the kill onto either member. 3-man Shockwave. Oh my goodness, Parker, what are you doing? Kalista, however, is low in the backline. Arvid finds the Kai'Sa as the first casualty of the fight, and the Rengar does go down in the end. Now here is the Kalista to try and secure her way to more kills. Flashes forward to get that rend off and does find a kill with it onto the Trundle. The 4th player for the side of Red Team 1 going down here, and the 4th kill for NSG Forsaken will mean a surefire Baron, as the Dragon is also up in just about 40 seconds. They have people to tank it, they have people to DPS it. Everyone is still alive for the side of NSG Forsaken, and no one but Loon on the side of Red Team 1.
Yeah, RT1, they just tried to utilize that pick that I mentioned earlier, and they did it on not the ideal champions. They picked it on the 2 tankiest members of their team, and as we saw, they just did not do any damage against those people. Unfortunately, as you also mentioned, they used the 2 most important cooldowns, and they just didn't have anything to follow up once they tried to engage again. And Parker once again showing up big, and he was just able to land that 3-man shockwave, and from there it's just all downhill for NSF to just go ahead and clean up.
That is what happened in that team fight, and now they are trying to transition their pressure over into the Dragon. However, Woven King once again with a foolish Destiny Gate just gets caught out. Parker obviously having lost some of his HP and having lost the Shockwave as they're trying to now fight this 4v4. Maybe finally something for RT1 does go in their favor, but Rengo is the first to fall and Kalista is still full HP and kicking. Toto is trying to run away, but the Rent does find him in the end for the triple kill. Arvid trying to set up for the quadra kill, and Kalista finds her quadra kill as she's now looking for the Dragon as well. 3rd Dragon of the game, so point. Yeah, now the snowball is really starting to roll for the side of NSG Forsaken, and they can't even side lane on the side of RT1 because they are losing every single 1v1 matchup.
They are, and not only that, they just fought another team fight, and no members of NSF ended up falling. RT1 they just were able to do any damage. They were very close to killing the Orianna, but they couldn't follow up with any damage onto the backline because of the Xin Zhao and the Tom Kent were just putting too much damage onto the Rengar and the Trundle. So it's unfortunate, but to go ahead and see another force pick, at least by RT1, if they want to be able to come back in this game, and a series of them as well.
They've been trying to force pick people, but Woven King twice in a row now trying to Destiny Gate forward to try to catch someone out, and twice in a row just getting blown up, and then the remaining team fight is just super doomed for them.
It was super doomed. As I mentioned earlier, the comp for that NSF has drafted is just so good. It's unfortunate for RT1 at least, because they aren't able to find really any of the damage that they need or at least any of the follow-up damage that they need in these fights.
Yeah, and Sanix is falling further and further behind. Since the initial level 1 play, he's picked up 1 assist and 7 deaths.
I think this TF ult that they just used was just try and find a potential pick that they could make out right now. But NSF is just moving together in the same way. They have total control of the top jungler here. But ooh,
Another shockwave onto Ringo here, but he is at about half HP. So the amount of HP that he has built up with the Divine Sundra in his items is quite effective. And that Negatron cloak also coming into fruition.
yeah, and Kalista has finished her DA as well, so RT1 will have to kill Kalista twice if they even manage to kill her once. So we'll see how that turns out.
Oh, the gold card does time out for Wolven King here as he does go for the auto attack on Arvid. Is not further punished for it, but now here comes the shove and more pressure transitioning down towards the bot side from NSG Forsaken.
Yeah, and as we're seeing again, NSF, they're just moving together as a team. Like they're doing everything that they can not to get picked off because that's what they're looking for with the Rengar and the TF. But they're doing everything by moving together, they're preventing that. So it's really a good decision and really well played by them to just move around the map together. And once again, they have total control of the vision in their bot jungle.
That is sadly what happens when you pick yourself into a situation where you basically have no winning lanes. We've said it time and again, when it comes to this tournament play, none of the other rules of League of Legends seem to apply other than win lane, win game. Even a level 1 flipped in either team's favor that goes 5 for 2 or 4 for 1 that we've seen before. None of that matters if you just have winning lanes. And this game sort of puts a bow on that statement and sends it home.
Yeah, I was a bit unfortunate by RT1 because they aced their team basically at a level 1. Trying to try and extend his lead. Unfortunately, all the times he did gank, it just did out and nothing ever happened, and it just never seems to have went their way after that. But it looks like NSF is going mid again to try and get this inhib out. RT1 though, they are kind of out of position to try and defend this, but never
There's
mind,
no
they're gonna back
minion
off.
wave quite yet, as now they're trying to move in, and the Tom Kench is directly on top of the Kalista, which does mean that the Devour is available if she should be protected, as now she
Ooh,
gets devoured after having a nice cleanse actually, and maybe a bit of overcommit here coming out from that Devour, as Sanix and Rengar are trying to flank the team from the backside, but all of them are huddled up S5. Maybe not quite a big shockwave opportunity this time around. As I say that, he finds a two-man
ooh.
shockwave onto Loon and onto Sanix, and the team fight in the backline is just going all the wrong ways. Meanwhile, the jungler soulless the top laner that is purely picked for the ego lane, and yeah, it was blind and it was devastating. Minecraft
Parker
Drown
once
gets
again.
executed under the turret here, and this is gonna be the game. RT1 goes down into second place, and NSG Forsaken will take first place into that group. Both of the teams will meet each other in Division 1.
That was absolutely really well played by NSF at least. They once they were able to get control of the game, they made sure of it and they did all the correct decisions to try and stay in that scenario. Sorry, give me 1 second.
All right. Well, as we come out of game, I don't think we have a lot of time remaining to really analyze that. I think that the next game is also almost directly available, and I will check back on that. In the meantime, I have to say that with this, we will now see, obviously, both teams moving into Division 1, as I said, but it did look like a very competitive match in the way that it worked. It does seem like we do have time for an interview, as if there would be one available, we could look to arrange that right now, and we have the beautiful Yamden back on camera as well. Now let's wait and see. So talk to me a little bit about what this means about the general state of the league. What do you see from either team that impressed you or maybe did not impress you today?
I think definitely drafting is a lot more important than having comfort picks. Obviously, they went with the Rengar top. It didn't pan out the way that they wanted it for them to. I think drafting for RT1 was a bit weak. NSF just had a really, really good draft and they had a really strong comp, which led them to be able to win, as we saw, because RT1 they had a lead in the beginning, but they weren't able to utilize or stomp their lead. I think in the end it was always going to be NSF's victory because they just have such a strong comp all around. As for RT1, as I mentioned earlier, it was just try and find a lockdown or a pick, and which ended up not happening. So I think as we go further in, drafts are going to be a lot more important rather than comfort picks.
Well, let's talk to the man himself. Drowned, welcome to the casting desk, or casting lobby as it is right now. You obviously won three for your third game in this group, and you're now moving as first into Division 1. What is the general sentiment of the team going into the SLE proper?
Oh, we're here to win it, pretty much. Like we're quite competitive. We want to win. Like we feel like we play quite well as a team, and we're here to show that we can actually do it.
Well, so far you've had an absolutely amazing performance, and even with a roster change today, that did not deter you from actually coming out on top. A crazy level 1 skirmish led to you being very behind in the early game, but you managed to clutch it out in your own ways. Tell me a little bit about what happened there.
So we had the idea of doing the level 1 invade, and we had to wait for the Callista to um, we had to wait for the Callista to set off her passive, and then so it delayed our invade because we wanted to split the map up diagonally and force them to try and dive top lane. It didn't really go to plan. We lost the fight pretty heavily, and we were like, okay, let's sit back, let's scale a little bit. We'll get Callista ahead. We're prepared to go for the long game, and it's like things kind of led out a couple of questionable plays from the enemy team, and we kind of just got ahead from there and just kind of snowballed it.
Yeah, that was really well played by you guys because you guys just kind of stepped back, you guys scaled up, and in the end it just went really well for you guys. Um, I also your Nautilus folks were very on point that game. You peeled very well for Callista as well. So during the team fights, how did that turn out? Or
I
what happened?
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I was a bit sweaty. I was a bit like sweaty there. Like I was kind of like, oh, I better not miss a hook because I was more there just to like soak up all the damage, kind of like get the aggro. Because having the Nautilus stay in the front with the Orianna, the Rengar can't really dive in. They can't really do much, but it relies on me kind of like having to take as much damage as I can and then being able to quickly hook out. We also got the Callister as a safety net. We got the Tom Kench as a safety net as well. But I feel like I did all right there actually.
So you had a roster swap very recently, and that led to a little bit of turmoil coming out in this roster. So tell me a little bit about what happened here.
Uh, I mean, like I don't know like the full details of what's going on, but IDC just couldn't play today. Our main support can't like play for a little bit, so it's just like it was like really last minute decision, but it worked out pretty well in the end, honestly.
All right, well, it did work out very well, and you said that you're very confident moving into the league proper. What are some of the other teams that you're sort of looking at to see where they place, what division they go into, and what teams are you excited to play?
Ooh, I'm not really sure to be honest. Can't remember off the top of my head, but everyone does look pretty strong. Like the people we've been playing against, they were like it definitely feels very very competitive, and I myself am very excited to play against some of these teams and hopefully pull off some good games for people to watch.
Well, they have been very good games to watch. What are some of the things that you prioritize in draft as we come into SLE? We've seen a lot of dive, obviously being very successful, and your comp not only having a good amount of dive, but also being able to defend that.
Well, we definitely have a lot of like comfort picks that we like playing. So like the Callista, the Zidzao, the Ziggs, they're very nice meta picks right now. But we do also have a few tricks like we're playing around with and scribs and stuff. It's going to be very interesting, but it feels like we're just more right now. It's best to like play for what we're comfortable at and what we're good at.
Well, you are certainly very good at what you're doing at the moment, so I thank you very much for the interview that you've given us. Your team is an absolute delight to watch. I hope we see more games coming out from you guys, and I'm very excited for the future. Do you have anything you want to say before the end of the opening tournament for you guys?
Uh, Well, I guess thank you for watching, and sorry for the level 1 hook into the Lulu. That was a bit troll.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming around. Bye bye. So while we do that, I will be trying to find an invite into the next lobby. And as I say that, I have received it. That is how we like to see it. All right, next up we will be having SG Momentum versus TLC. So while I set up the overlays, what have you seen so far about either of those teams?
I have not seen. I don't think I've seen either of these teams play yet, so it'll be my first time to see how both of them play out. You can tell me what you know about these teams.
Well, TLC has had an absolutely amazing first game, and yesterday they ran into a bit of a scheduling issue where we're not quite sure what the outcome of that game will be yet. On the other hand, we have SG Momentum, who honestly come in as probably the tournament favorite. So that will be something very, very interesting to see, and how that will develop in what we have learned so far about the SLE. However, sometimes being the favorite does also mean that people are able to prepare more for you. So, yeah, we will just have to wait and see. What kind of picks do you then expect to be coming out from some of these teams?
I think Zinjao will take their ban. He's just been for me he's been picked I think every single game so far. So he's also just in general a really strong pick in the meta currently. So I think we might be able to see him. Diego, I have also noticed, has been banned pretty much throughout almost of the games. So we'll see if he's finally being picked this game, or if they're going to go ahead and ban one of them this game as well. So I'd like to see one of them try and pick something um not so meta, try like a pocket pick, to try and surprise us to see how that plays out, because it'd be really interesting to see how it turn out.
The more confidence a team comes in with, that means that the team also usually has a lot more lenience towards the draft phase. So maybe we will finally see a Viego being played in SLE. Maybe we have to wait until the champ is actually nerfed, or if it, like, who knows, honestly.
If it's ever nerfed.
Yeah, if it's ever nerfed. If they even know how to nerf it, to be fair.
If they know, yeah, I mean, is Akshan not allowed to be played in this tournament at all?
I believe Akshan is enabled, and I believe that Karma and Sona are disabled. But Akshan does not. To me personally, I have to say, I think Akshan is looking pretty weak. But obviously, I thought that about when Bard was released, and that was just people having to learn to play that champion. And yeah, maybe the champion gets a lot better with people actually having practice on him.
Yeah, I think right now Akshan's try and fit into some of the comps is also a bit difficult, because he's kind of like a ranged talent in my opinion. It's just and Talon right now isn't so hot in the meta right now, so it's hard to incorporate him into any of the comps. So I guess it's fair that we haven't been able to see him both banned professionally. So, and he's banned in the here. So I guess we'll have to see next year.
Well, he's not banned in here. He's just
Oh,
banned
okay.
professionally. As I mentioned, it's just Karma and Sona that are banned at the moment.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. And now, all right. We might just be minutes away from draft, as we just get everything set up and ready to go. All the players are finally joining the lobby here, or slowly joining the lobby here, and we get to talk a little bit more about how we feel about the state of League of Legends in general. So then let's move on to, where do you think Akshan is played mainly? Do you think he's more of an AD carry, or do you see him as intended by Riot as a mid laner?
I think he's had the most success as a mid laner so far. Every time I see him go bot lane or top lane, they just int. So I think, well, it just never is favorable for them, and they are ever able to capitalize on it. For mid lane at least, it's a lot more useful. He plays against a lot of the weaker. If he plays against the
Ooh.
weaker mid lane as well.
We've already
So
moved into draft here, even though the lobby is not completely filled yet, but we will be transitioning into that draft as we do here at the SLE. And with that, we will kick off the first ban already. SG Momentum this time around respecting Blanco's Fiddlesticks, who was absolutely outstanding in that game and is honestly kind of a Fiddlesticks main, potentially one trick. I'm not willing to say that yet because I've not seen him perform on any of the other junglers, but he did certainly look absolutely outstanding. Then there is a Kled ban as a respect, of course, coming in from the side of TLC for the top laner of SG Momentum.
These are some interesting bans. I like the Fiddlesticks ban. It is respectable, as you said. Fiddlesticks, you know, if he is able to pop off, we saw it yesterday with Sandix. He was just, it's just able to snowball the rest of the game essentially. The Kled ban though is interesting. I haven't seen too much of it in game so far, but you can talk to me how you feel about that one.
These are very clearly targeted bans, especially the bans coming out from SG Momentum, leaving open the Viego. The Viego still open at red band 6. Do they leave it open? Red band 3, excuse my misdemeanor there. That would be absolutely outstanding. It seems like they had a draft plan beforehand, but now that might just be thrown over the board as Viego is still left open and available. And I mean, will it be first pick? Of course it will.
Pick.
The tournament favorites locked themselves in the Viego as a first pick. Now this is going to be so confusing for me to cast, and I'm so looking forward to it, to just absolutely lose my mind over this.
Yeah, it's already so exciting, man. Oh, and here we go with the orange pick. Sorry, Diego. You know, I'm assuming it's going to go into the jungle. It already opens up basically whole comp. I think we'll go ahead and center around probably a dive or an engage kind of comp with the Diego that they have.
Well, what is very good against dive and engage is a lot of CC and disengage, and Braum and Ornn provide tremendous amounts of that. So that might be a planned answer from the side of TLC that might have thought up a game plan against what SG Momentum is thinking about.
Yeah, I think TLC, they might have left them open on purpose, and they might have a comp to counterpick the Diego too. Oh, but okay.
A Lilia. So Lilia in recent times has been able to be played in the mid lane. Now that is a very unusual pick, but we've seen it in the LPL. I think we've seen it in North America, and we've definitely seen it in the LCK as well. And another mage comes in the form of Morgana here. So Morgana most likely going down towards that bot side to sort of know what the Braum is trying to do. And give protection and also engage for the Viego. Not a lot of dive alongside the Viego pick itself, and Braum Ashe as a tremendous bot lane combination together. For years and years and years, this has been one of the hardest comps to actually break.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. You know, Morgana, she just puts a spell shield on Viego. You know, if you have so much CC that you can't use it, what's the point of the CC? So, I mean, also the Lilia pick is also really interesting. I've played against it a few times in my solo queue games, and I just get destroyed. Just does not die, dude. Like, it lives and lives and lives.
It is very, very fast, as now we see more mid lane bans from the side of TLC. At least they come out with the Xerath ban, because they do say that this might be a Viego top and a Lilia jungle. Not too unusual, as especially in the LPL playoffs recently, we've been seeing a game or two of that Viego top lane. However, here in Europe, in the LEC, at least, there has only been Viego jungle. From what I know, I've obviously not entirely caught up on what is going on at the moment. So,
the Kale ban.
A Kale ban, so that does look like it does go actually up towards the top lane player. So a lot of top lane bans is what you asked for, and we're getting some top lane bans this time around. And then an Anivia ban for that mid. Xin Zhao also being banned out as someone that has previously been entirely ignored in this draft phase, and this might be your first game, or this will be your first game to be casting without a Xin Zhao in it.
Yes, finally. Well, it was banned, so I was given in that instance. But TLC, I'm expecting more hard CC picks from them. Kane is actually Kane.
Kane will be locked in, and I do know that Blanco really loves that pick. If he doesn't play Fiddlesticks, he basically plays Kane a lot of the time. He's learned some more junglers to adapt to metas and around metas, but these are the two champions he really favors over any others. And last time he got one of his comfort picks, he absolutely smurfed on it.
Yeah, for sure. I believe it. Oh, but Senna is coming out over here on this SG momentum side at least. So they are looking to definitely scale up into the game, especially with the Senna pick, I think. But
A
we'll see what their
Senna
last
Morgana
pick is.
bot lane does provide an amount of safety against what the Ashe might throw at them, because they do have the availability of the Black Shield to counter that Enchanted Crystal Arrow. So it is very interesting for me to see an Ashe picked into a Morgana generally, and that's why they feel comfortable enough to pick up the Senna. And then there will be the Irelia to complete the confusion of the top lane triangle entirely.
Yeah, I think it might be. I think it might be either really a top or mid, Leo or Diego. Yeah, okay. Well,
The
we'll find out
topside
what happens.
confusion
We can
is
guess all day
complete
long.
indeed, and now we are looking to see what Lago, who also looked very, very good in his debut in the SLE, will answer with, and it's an Annie. There's a Church of LS that is currently celebrating, as we will be seeing what the Annie will be able to do. Now that is a very uncommon pick here, basically in competitive all across the world.
Yeah, it is definitely an unusual pick, and I'm excited to see it as well. I'm also excited to see the Irelia and Lilia out here as well. So this is going to be a very interesting game to watch pan out, in my opinion. But I'm just gonna say Irelia right now is absolutely busted, especially if she's able to get ahead. So we will see if she's able to, I think if she really faces up against the Annie, this Annie is going to probably struggle a bit before level 6.
Well, Aurelia, with the recent changes that she has received, it's not just physical damage reduction anymore, but it is actually physical and magic damage reduction. So that does put her a lot more in favor in some of these mid lane mage setups where she would previously struggled. And who knows if this might even be the lane sub that we're expecting, as we have no idea where anyone is going yet. This could be a Lilia. I mean, where is the Lilia going? We don't know that yet. Alright, we are just waiting for the AD carry of TLC to finally connect into the lobby, as he does have some technical issues, but here at SLE we are used to that and we are working around it. So we have more time to analyze sort of what we have in front of us. You said yourself that you think that it will be an Aurelia mid lane. What makes you think that way? You think it's good into the Annie?
I definitely do think it's good into the Annie. Up against Ornn, she doesn't have so much of a kill potential as she would have against the Annie, but we'll see how they want to play up the matchup. Diego, of course, can also do pretty decently against the Annie as well. But against Ornn, I don't think he has so much of the as much kill potential as well. Ornn's just such a tanky champion that it just having to kill him solely in the lane is just really, really difficult.
I would tend to disagree with you, though I do think that the Viego has the slightly better matchup into the Ornn. I think the new Aurelia is actually very good into Ornn, and I think that she does really struggle into Annie, even though she has been changed for the magic damage to have magic damage reduction as well on her W. So I think that we might be seeing that Aurelia go towards the top side, and we can sort of see which caster is going to come out on top of this whole discussion as we finally get into the inclined draft. For some reason it's blind pick. All right, that is interesting. Okay, well, that does not matter for us as casters, as we will still have time to go over what we will be seeing. So I can tell you guys already that the Lilia is going into the top lane. And that will be extremely interesting. And actually, I'm not sure about that anymore, as it's just going all kinds of crazy at the moment. I'm not sure who's going where still, and I can't say that for sure, so I will be holding off on my judgment. Then tell me a little bit about what you expect to see from a Kayn jungle clear in general. Kayn, obviously not being a champion that has been hugely popular for a long time, but now in competitive, he's starting to rise up.
Yeah, I actually don't know too much about competitive, but Kayn has so many different starts. It's going to have to be depending on which Kayn he goes, either red or blue Kayn. So as depending on his start as well, I believe. So yeah, we'll have to see which Kayn he decides to go as well. So I can't really comment too much on the Kayn and how his pathing is going to work. Same for Diego as well. Unfortunately.
Do you see great viability on that red Kayn?
Against their team, I think Blue Kayn might be better. They don't really. I think just having to go for that one shot on their team would be a lot more useful rather than the red. But of course, I could be wrong. I'm not a Kayn expert. I think you are though.
I wouldn't call myself a Kayn expert. I've just seen a couple of Kayn games, and in recent times, Red Kayn or Rast has felt extremely lackluster, sadly, and the pure Kayn, the blue Kayn, is a lot better in a lot of people's eyes. There are a lot more build flexibilities that you have available to you. Red Kayn does have the Gore Drink, of course, which does synergize beautifully with his kit, and in general there are some items that in theory work really well, but that does mean that he's actually lacking a good bit of damage. But yeah, I don't know. I've seen basically only blue Kayn, and I expect this to be blue Kayn as well. There is a nice front line coming out from the Ornn, who does have amazing team fighting potential. Excuse me, as I have to reconfigure myself here. And then let's talk a little bit more about what we expect to see from both bot lanes coming out.
Yeah, so it's a Braum Ashe against a Senna Morgana. Obviously, the Braum will, I think, pretty much disengages whatever Morgana or Senna wants to put onto them. Ashe will just spam out her W to try and poke Morgana Senna down as well. I'm expecting a pretty passive lane from both of them, at least.
A pretty passive lane from a Ashe?
Yes, in my opinion, because Morgana, she has strong disengage, so I think if they do try and engage, there won't be too much that comes out of it unless they try and hard commit from it.
Well, that does mean that the Braum is not able to catch any of the damage thrown at the Ashe, which might certainly happen, especially because Senna's auto attacks and Senna's Q all go through the wall. They all just go through, because they're not counted as projectiles. An interesting little fact is that the Senna ult, however, does count as a projectile, and that can be stopped by the Braum door.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this matchup is very, in my opinion, is a bit uncommon. So I'm just trying and play out scenarios in my head. But I did not know that the Senna auto attacks go right through the Braum at least.
Well, that is something that you find out when you play enough Yasuo, I guess. I don't think I have played enough Yasuo, but I guess I just watched so many games of League of Legends that I now know. Yeah, so that is an interesting little interaction between the two, and it might be one of the reasons why they picked the Senna into the Braum, because they do like that. And it also gives her the ability to collect souls in a very nice manner, and having a jungler that does clear very quickly, like the Viego or the Lilia, which both do, also means that in the later stages of the game, the Senna can just run around and team up with either of them and pick up a tremendous amount of souls. So we will now be confirming that it is actually a Viego jungle, and most likely a Lilia in the top lane. Lilia top lane obviously being extremely good into very bulky tanks that build up a lot of HP, because she does have the passive that does mean that the Liandry's damage can proc over and over again, and that will whittle down a tank in which most unlike how most burst mages, that was a difficult sentence to get over, are not able to do. So the Lilia seems like a very specific counterpick into the Ornn. Something that has to be mentioned in that matchup is the fact that Ornn W is unbelievably powerful against the Lilia sleep because it is so easy to actually W through that sleep. So whether that will actually occur or not will be something that also will impact how the game flow continues throughout the match.
For sure. And I think Kane is going red Kane at least. He brought Conqueror at least. I haven't seen the blue Kane that brings Conqueror in my life. But yeah, what do you think?
Well, what you're saying does certainly make sense, especially with the Conqueror that you're saying. I'm just not a fan of Red Cane in general. I think Red Cane is extremely underpowered at the moment, but Blanco is played enough Cane that he probably knows his matchups very, very well. So if he can team up with Lago, who as a duo they've been absolutely fantastic in their first game, that will be very, very impactful. But they are up against an extremely powerful team on paper. On paper means nothing if you can't bring it to the Rift though. And that we've seen, for example, in our last game. So let's see if this time around there can be a conversion of the strength of power and finally our first Viego of Supreme League Europe, whether he can actually manage to find the advantages that he's looking for.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually excited to see this Lilia top and how it pans out. I think a lot of people sleep on it. I've played against Lilia top, and that champion just does not die and just moves so fast that you can't do anything pretty much unless you have hard CC. Luckily for TLC though, they do have a lot of hard CC for them.
They do actually have a tremendous amount of lockdown against the Lilia, some forms of it being easier to hit than others, like the availability of the anti-stun, but once you hit one form of CC on the Lilia, you can hit a second form, because if you stun her once, she's not moving anymore, and then all that movement speed does absolutely nothing for you.
Yeah, for sure. But they need to save some of their CC though for the Diego and the Aurelia as well.
And the Senna, it gets rougher and rougher the further you look down this squad that SG Momentum has drafted for themselves. But there is no frontline available, unless this is a very tanky Lilia build, which could be a possibility.
Lilia is already quite tanky herself just from the way she heals, so she seems squishy because it's just a deer, but she is one tanky deer, I must say.
Well, there are not many resistances found within Lilia's kit herself, other than just the fact that she can run pretty fast. And that can sometimes be enough, as we're just waiting for the spectator client to finally do its due diligence. And as I say that, I've brought it to life, and we will be jumping in to SG Momentum's first game up against TLC. The last choice having found success in their first game through some absolutely beautiful drafting and some absolutely beautiful play, now up against a very, very interesting team composition, one that we've not quite seen so far, and TLC is moving as a group. Meanwhile, the Viego for the side of SG Momentum is standing in base. And they can't pause the game. Now we have run into a bit of a pickle, as the Viego has finally started moving. Since this is a blind pick game, and everyone wanted to get into game very quickly, the game could not be paused. And this might lead to some very interesting level 1 shenanigans. Viego is checking that bush.
Up.
Okay. Well, they are moving closer and closer towards each other, as TLC is not really abusing the fact that Viego was not there level 1, but they're also certainly not just backing down. I believe that this has really slowed down TLC's level 1, and that was actually quite catastrophic for them, because that could have been something very nice. And look at what Blanco is now trying to do with the advantage of having that position in the bush. Clearing the Raptors first of the Viego, who does really like the camp.
Yeah, this is a smart move by Blanco right here. And he's going to go for the red as well. So we'll see if blue side momentum is going to be able to see if they spot this out at all and see if Diego tries and pass to the enemy red.
Well, there
Right now,
is a
Blanco is
ward in
it.
Pixel Bush. That ward actually never spotted Blanco going over these walls with his Q. So the way that he's moved around the map is indicating an extremely clever play here. And even that ward in Tribush not quite spotting him out. Now
Ooh, and
he's
he's still
still
not gonna
not
get
on
by.
vision. No pings come
Oh,
out to
Diego.
Blanco's position. And Viego is just pathing down into his empty jungle here.
Oof, yeah, this Diego is going to be in for
Oh,
a big
Irelia lands
surprise.
level 2, flawless duet already, and the Annie has to pay a lot of respect to her here.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning about the Aurelia giving really strong to the Annie. It's almost getting a kill. They both still have suns, so we'll see how that pans out. And Diego just found his surprise. Let's just see.
And he's trying to at least find some sort of vision recovery, as he's trying to at least move into the jungle here. He's walking over 0 wards, as there might be an opportunity in the bot side. And actually TLC's bot lane pick up first blood onto Ben 2. And as he tries to get away, Jinx does, he will fall to the Viego. Now Lago does stun up Xandarts under the turret, and it will just be a 1-for-1 trade as a flash forward from Flay today comes out, but a flash away comes out from Devout.
Yeah, it was a good trade by both flashes for them, at least. Morgana, she forced that flash, and because if she just threw out the Q, the binding bomb could have easily dodged it unless it was coming dry at him. He would have to force a flash, but I think he just went
Now
to
we
trade the
do
Suns at least.
find Blanco, who has actually snuck the Scuttle Crab as Viego's taken his first one as well. Both of them securing one for themselves, but Viego has already gotten off a successful gank, even though he is put behind in terms of jungle clear and got 3 buffed by Blanco. That is a head-to-head race going on inside this game at the moment.
Already, Aurelia is just extending her lead over this Annie. Annie only with 9 CS right now. Just 5 minutes into the game. Aurelia almost with perfect CS too.
And
And
she has to go for the recall here. She has to respect the damage coming out from that Aurelia, even though she's out of mana now. Lago will elect to go for that recall and TP back into this lane. Aurelia and Xandarts now having up the TP still means that they can now shove in the wave and then recall to base, as Blanco is looking for his first gank, and the TP from Aurelia will come out top as they're trying to look for the kill. They can't quite find it. What can Xandarts do? He lands a flawless duet, and that will be the first kill for Xandarts here, as he's also trying to look for the Orin here. He does still have his stacks available, and now goes forward onto the Orin, who flashes as well,
ooh.
and he will actually just about survive. Now, there was a kill picked up for Xandarts, which is already extremely scary.
It is, and this Annie is already struggling. This Annie also went for a second Doran's ring. I don't necessarily agree with that buy. I think she should probably go ahead and start building the Hourglass or something along that will give her to help her out against the Aurelia at least. But now Aurelia has double buffs as well, so it's going to be a very difficult lane for her.
Especially that blue buff. I guess both buffs are actually tremendous for Aurelia. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, for sure. And
Maybe
if they are
Viego's
able to
trying
up
to look
this-
for his second gang towards that bot side, but he does get spotted out on a ward here, as he's just
and Dragon's
deciding
up.
to recall.
I think Kane might. No, he's just going to go ahead and pink it. I think he's looking for a gank on bot side right now. And they definitely do have the sums and everything to go ahead and initiate this fight. They want to go for
Kane
it.
has a very, very nice gang path to try to find that jungler. Maybe the Ashe is faking some sort of pressure here, coming out with the arrow, as the wave is now shoving into this top lane. Lilia here, who's probably going to finally reach that level 6 mark after this wave has been collected.
Lego had to back off on that gank. I think he wasted a bit too much time trying to force a gank right there. He could have been taking soloing Dragon as well. He's actually taking Skeller right now, but he's still trying to look for a gank. While Diego's just farming up playing his
And
camps right now.
in the meantime, Xandarts has snuck himself behind the Ornn here, who does not have flash available. Here comes the sleep. W used to avoid it, but the flawless duet finds the kill, and Xandarts sets up for his top lane Lilia and utilizes the pressure he's gained in mid. Meanwhile, Blanco is not happy about the general state of the map and tries to at least counteract with some cross-mapping towards the Drago. However, Lago is still tied in that mid lane, and Blanco now might actually find the bot lane of SG Momentum out of position here. A nice binding comes out from Medbell, who does manage to CC up this core for now, and they're just looking to disengage for now.
Yeah, for sure. This really is going to really start getting really huge. Annie's already, she's been roaming a lot though, and this has allowed Annie to try and farm up a bit more, but she isn't as far as behind as she was initially. I think she's going for Ludens right now. I think she should be prioritizing the Hourglass so she doesn't get blown up by the Diego or the Aurelia. But I think it'd be good. Hourglass would just be really good on TLC's side in general to counter the Lilia. Lilia ult and Aurelia, Diego, it'd just be a really good item in general.
Well, that is the only... Lago is the only player that would be allowed to buy the Hourglass, however. So, I mean, an Amtome or 2 Amtomes don't tell me too much about what he's going for in terms of build path yet, as there are 2 Amtomes inside of the Zhonya's Hourglass as well. As top lane Lilia might look for some aggression, but Blanco has made his way up here. Does not look for the gank though. And so just more advantages gained for SG Momentum across the board, as it's starting to look pretty scary, this early lead that we're already seeing coming out from them.
There's already about a 2k gold lead on for Momentum at least. Oh,
Xandarts is trying to go aggressive onto that Annie here. Does just solo kill her. He dodges the ultimate first, and then is just free to do whatever he wants. The bear trying to chase the Aurelia down, but Xandarts just has free reign of this at the moment.
yeah, and he already has a shutdown on him. He's almost closing on 100 CS as well. This really is just going to be, he's going to be a problem for the rest of the game.
Well, I've set up how strong this team might look, and so far they are certainly not disappointing. As the blue buff is stolen here finally from the side of the Viego, Coil Insanity finds his second buff of the game, as Blanco looks on in horror to what happened to his jungle camp, and Lilia might actually find some aggression up towards the Ornn here, who does not W in time, and now just damage traded back as Xandarts comes in. Flawless Duet goes wide this time around, but they just dive under the turret as easy as they like, and it's getting worse and worse as the game continues, and Xandarts is continuing to find advantages and push them even outside of his lane. Still up about 25 CS, even though he's roamed twice and made very impactful roams twice as well.
For sure. It's both been top lane right now. Bot lane's just been, well, aside from that level 1, it's just been the chill breeze down here. But Diego, aside from that first gank, he hasn't really been that big impactful on the map. So right now, it's because they're really a show as of right now, pretty much.
Well, bot lane have signed themselves up for a lot, for playing weak side here by picking Morgana Senna. Not a lane that is tremendously aggressive or is looking to scale out of control. And even though Blanco has looked for a thing or two down here towards the bot side, he's not been successful apart from that first kill. I tell a lie. Actually, the first kill was a solo kill for the bot lane, so Blanco does not find any success in the bot lane.
Yeah, you notice Aurelia just finished her Blade of Rune King, so she's basically full build by now. So,
at 10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's up towards that top side once again. Now there is no lullaby available for the Lilia here, and the TP comes out from Lago, as she does even get away from the Ornn Horn. Call of the Forge God, second activation going wide.
That was a good call by Momentum to back off on that, knowing that they should have forced that.
Momentum is not done yet. Xandarts is looking quite aggressive here, as they are still posturing inside that bush up there, and Cold Insanity might be looking for some amount of further pressure. Sitting in the bush now, as this time around the Lilia is also moving into the jungle vicinity. Oh, Viego is now behind them, and Xandarts is trying to look to maybe make the difference. As the Annie-stun is available, Flawless Duet does land on her. She does get out the Tibbers, but is extremely low. And so the flash forward from Viego finds the kill, and her soul can now be picked up, but it's not even necessary. The shielding from the Senna, just to maybe give her some assists as she wants to split the gold with her team.
Yeah, that was
Ooh.
inevitable for them. They really wanted to force that, and they did get the fight that they were looking for. Annie was just locked down for almost the entire fight, so she couldn't even get the tippers off before it was way too late, unfortunately, in that scenario. But right now, this Aurelia and the top side is looking very, very huge.
We have not talked about the farming Morgana yet. How do you feel about that?
So yeah, I actually did not notice that until just now. It's working out pretty decently okay. I guess they do really want to scale up this Sana for late game when the Aurelia does start falling off, and I think that is a good call by them.
I'm also a big fan of choosing the Morgana for that matchup, and I think not enough people and teams actually look for different and more unique answers to see who they want to pair with Senna as the scaling laner, and I think that Morgana with her W wave clear is an outstanding candidate for that in general. Now if we take a look at Blanco, we can see that how far is he into his passive? I can't quite make that out yet. So he's not elected one of the two forms so far.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely like to see some more counter items against this Aurelia, especially from Annie, because it's not working out for her at all right now. As you can see right now, it's just Aurelia is just she can't even step up.
She can't indeed, and so they have to find advantages somewhere else. The bot lane looks not losing at the moment, so that might be an advantage or an avenue for them to actually come in here, as they do have the priority to start up that dragon. However, now Morgana flashes out the flash from the Braum, as they will just get that dragon for free. And
Yeah, there isn't much
walk
that they
away.
could do.
SG Momentum really stomping their feet down here and saying, we have come to play this tournament. You might not have seen us in the first 2 days, but we have certainly brought some spice. Here comes the lullaby from the Lilia, and Xandarts has made his way up towards the top side. Flawless Duet goes wide, but the Vanguard's Edge does not.
Yeah, they're just gaining momentum. Momentum is, and there is red side. They just, I think at this point of the game, they should start looking for plays on bot side because that's the only lane that isn't. Oh,
Oh,
here we
maybe
go.
finally some advantage found for the side of TLC. Another kill in that 2v2 found for the side of TLC, as what was he doing?
I think he may have been warning. Is that this complete
Was he
item
tabbed
to?
out? Are we playing the same game? Was he lagging? Hello?
I have genuinely no idea. But Ash is their lifeboat right now. She has the gold right now, so we'll see how she's able to stand up against the Aurelia and Diego at least, and the Lilia.
That sounds rough, to say the least. But yeah, they at least have some small advantage down here for the side of TLC, so it's not all doom and gloom. As I say that, the mid lane tower for them gets cracked open, and they spot the Viego, they spot the Kane out even, and the Flawless Duet wasn't even close, to be honest. It's not even close.
No.
And now here is a bigger brawl than they might have anticipated, as it's a 4v2. Viego, of course, being very powerful, and the Aurelia as well, but they might have bitten off there more than they can chew. The fifth member for the side of TLC comes in here, and finally we see some coordination and some signs of life coming out from TLC.
Yeah, that was a really good take by them. At least Blanco picking up, spawning this Viego, and them being able to collapse on that. Really, I don't know if, where the Aurelia was. I think she showed up just a bit late. I think, the fight though it was a bit unfortunate for momentum, but we were starting to see the momentum shift after that fight. Now that they are able to recover a bit from that fight as well. Blanco getting 2 kills on the board, Ash as well getting a lot more gold.
And that has given him enough orbs to finally transform into Rast here. So his champion is finally online, and he does already have his first mythic as the first one in his team. Interesting itemization choice coming out here from the Braum. I don't mind it. I think it's interesting. I don't think we see it a lot.
I
Not
think it's a good
necessarily.
pick, especially with the way Aurelia and Diego are
Oh,
kind
Enchanted
of.
Crystal Arrow
Oh,
comes out and he places the Black Shield on himself. No, on the Senna. So he himself gets stunned up. Then the Root comes out from the Senna and that will allow a stun on Blanco. But Blanco is unrelenting and unfortunately Devout is the benefactor of that kill.
yeah, that was really good initiation by the Ashe right there. That's what you need right now.
Oh,
You're
no
trying to look for the
W
pick.
available for the Ornn anymore, and Xandart has once again made his way up here, so that means Lilia will just walk at him under that turret, misses that, so the W will come up momentarily,
Yep.
and all the skill shots go wide. Super fumble, like, I mean, it was a big fumble, but it was an inconsequential one, as they even force out the TP from Lago, which is overall a win for the side of SG Momentum, but maybe their hands disconnected there for a little bit.
Yeah, is it okay if you bring up the score gold real fast? Do you see the deficient at least, or see how far they're ahead?
We can see that the gold lead is quite tremendous for the Aurelia in the mid lane as the Sleep and Flash come out from the Lilia here, and now she's on the run. She will try to run away as it just keeps on going and going. Lago flashes forward to guarantee the stun, and Blanco flashes afterwards, and Blanco finds the kill under the turret. So yet another kill coming here for Blanco.
Yeah. Momentum looking on the other side to collapse on this Ashe though.
Oh, the ward does spot out the Viego, but Flash for Flash is traded. Now Jinx is trying to trade and at least slow down the Viego, as that is successful for the moment. And Devout also gaining the Flash, or gaining distance with the Flash over the wall, which cannot be followed up by Xandarts. So the weak side of the map at least surviving here, though the investment was bigger than they might have liked. But they get to live.
Yeah, TLC is actually doing just playing just as they need to right now, just trying to get picks and trying to slowly come back to this game, but preventing the other team from snowballing as well. So they're doing a good job of doing that, especially with the Ashe. I think she was aware that they might try and get right there. That's why she warded it, and she was just enough time to get out as well.
Indeed, and that is very nice to see for a team that is behind, and for a team that is behind a lot, but that we expect to be solid. We can see that some of the mechanisms that have been trained in this core of 5 players are actually very, very active and are working nicely. So, good to see this awareness coming out from the side of the bot lane of TLC, and nice to see that they are fighting back where they can.
Yeah, unfortunately, this Aurelia is still huge. Oh, but are they going to try and force something? Diego is coming bot, but also Kane is in the area as
Kane
well.
is inbound, but Xandarts might just make the difference. As I go through all the players, Blanco does spot him out here, lands the knockup, but that will be
Or
all
does
for now.
have TP though, if they do decide to do this.
Well, but the Lilia Sleep is available as well. Oh, 2-man flawless duet. Oh, this is looking really dire here, as they do stun up the Aurelia for a long time and actually find the first kill. But now Viego is getting his resets, and that means that the fight could not be won for the side of TLC. Even though the early start looked good, Lago is simply not in position once again, and that means that all of them will die. And now he's giving over another free kill. Lago having a complete off game, and there is a quadra kill and a solo kill in the top lane just to make matters worse. We talked TLC up for their patience and their dedication to their own game plan, as they get absolutely railed this time around.
Yeah, railed by the Diego too, which we've been talking about. But unfortunately, I think that fight, they were just slightly out of position. They should have stayed under their tower at least, especially since they knew it was all coming down on them. Because it really caught them out in that tri-bush. So they didn't really have any of it. And the Diego, just once he got killed at Ashe, it was all downhill from there.
It was. They picked up the first kill, and then the Viego starts rolling and rolling and rolling, and we've all seen what scary things that man can do. So we talked about how they have to lock down the Lilia in the team fights, but how there are 2 threats on the side of SG Momentum that also have to be focused entirely with all of the CC, and even though the Lilia wasn't even there, they threw all the CC at the Aurelia, and the Viego got to pop off freely.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this Annie. Oh, are they gonna look for? No, they aren't. I think this Annie though, if she showed up for the fight, there would be a bit more CC, but she lacks some serious damage right now in order to against pretty much any member right now. We'll see. I'd still like to see this Annie to try and itemize around this really rather than going her standard build at least, because
Well, at the moment, she's kind of going no build as she does simply not have any gold available to her. Almost 3.5k gold behind. It is just tremendous the lead that Aurelia and Xandarts have amassed for themselves here in that mid lane. They're now transitioning their pressure down towards the bot side to try to also crack open that turret, as the Lilia Sleep will not, or the Lilia Bowling Ball will not tag the Ashe because of the door that the Braum has put up.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
yeah, Annie right now the only champion on the Rift right now without a mythic as well. Sorry, Annie, it's a really unfortunate game for you right now, but you went up against the Aurelia matchup, so there isn't much you can
Well,
do.
the
But they're
Void
going ahead
is
with the
also
Baron.
without a mythic so far, and as you're mentioning, the Baron has been started up here for the side of SG Momentum. They have a tremendous amount of Baron damage in basically 4 of their 5 players. No one to really tank it up very well, as Blanco tries to go for the steal, but does not manage to do so. Nice smite coming here for the side of Cold Insanity, and yeah, Blanco is just another lamb to the slaughter. Falls down, and a 23-minute Baron basically picked up for free, and it just goes from strong point to strong point for the side of SG Momentum.
Yeah, momentum. They're just gaining momentum in this game, especially with that Baron. I just had to throw that button in, man.
Blue team's
But
turret has
it's
been
not
destroyed.
looking too well. They were out of position for that. One of them backed, and I think TLC, not TLC, I think Momentum realized that, and they just decided
Recall
to
interrupted
initiate their
here, and Xandarts is trying to punish the Ornn as well. So he uses his second activation of the Q, does not have it available anymore, as I tell another lie. I'm not quite sure where that new Q stack comes from. Maybe the sheer cooldown reduction that he has now got from the Q is just enough to find another dash. And they punish the Ornn in the side lane as he was trying to recall. Completely overextended, but at least having achieved a turret kill for his team.
Yeah, I think that secures Dragon for them as well. Orin's not going to be able to spawn up in time, but he does have TP if they want to try and go for it. But it does not look like they're in a position to try and engage onto this Dragon.
No one is in position here. The closest next player was Senna from the team as well. And SG Momentum are kind of starting to run away with this game. They now have picked themselves up a 24-minute Dragon Soul, as Cold Insanity's Dragon priority and objective control has really been quite something to look at as well. But with the priority that he has gained from the side of the mid lane and from the side of top lane, it is... one can understand why that might be the case. We now have a 3-man stack from the side of TLC up towards the top side. But the Lilia is respecting that for now, as Blanco might be looking for some aggression towards Xandarts, but he just gets stunned up with a flawless duet, even though that Umbral dash was used. As they're now trying to dive him, Lagos here to maybe try to save or punish whatever becomes of that mid lane dive, and Cold Insanity is now looking for the bot lane turret instead, as he's roamed behind enemy lines and playing between the enemies, and that is just throwing them off even more than they previously had been already, and TLC is really looking worse for wear here.
Yeah, for sure. It's not looking good for TLC. I think if TLC wants to go ahead and get back into this game, they're going to have to utilize all these Ashe.
Jinx,
Oh,
this
no.
looks really bad for you. He does have the Enchanter Crystal Arrow, as there's also an engage down towards the bot side, but the Morgana does stun up a couple of members as we go down back towards the bot after seeing that kill happen towards the top side on the Ashe. Now Blanco is trying to at least find the kill onto the Senna, but he does get rooted up. Senna dropping lower and lower, finds the kill onto Blanco first. He's still alive and kicking. Still alive. Ornn does not find the kill as well. Braum drops as well, and now Senna is trying to gain the distance. No mana left available for Flate of Day and Medbell, but they finally get the kill on that Ornn, and
Yeah,
that
TLC,
was
they
a
just
3-for-1
lost.
trade in the bot side still, and oh.
Has been destroyed.
Yeah, it was not good. Ashe dying up top. I think the TLC just really lacked the damage in the bot side, because I looked like we saw that fight going on, and Morgana and Senna, they were essentially full health most of that fight as well. Fortunately,
I don't know how full health that Senna was, because she was dancing with death. But if you know anything about the lore, and I'm not gonna become the lore caster, but Senna is one to do that. And yeah, the amount of healing that is simply available between the Morgana passive for herself, the Senna Q, and of course that heal and Divine Sundra was just absolutely outstanding there, and really turned what looked like a favorable fight at the start into something that completely backfired for the side of TLC. And even in a numbers advantage, they can't really get it done.
They really can. I think if TLC wants to try and look for get back in this game, they need to utilize this Ash pick, arrow to try and find make picks. Because we have seen they do have the damage to try to lock down one person and be able to kill him, but they couldn't need to do that about 50 times. Okay, not 50, but maybe like 20 times in order for them to start getting even.
Well, that lockdown was about 15 minutes ago, and I'm not sure whether the side of SG Momentum has simply outscaled them now, because not only do they have nice lane priorities, but also the amount of scaling present in the Lilia damage over time and the tankiness that she does get from her natural item build, as well as the sheer scaling factor now coming out from Viego, Irelia, and Senna is just absolutely frightening to look at. So Blanco trying to slowly move into his jungle to at least clear out some of the vision. Viego has put down his E and is now trying to walk around and potentially look for any stragglers that find themselves a little bit caught out. The only one finding themselves caught out, however, are the minion waves towards the top side. As I may be telling a lie, Morgana does get ulted here by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow and might just be burst down, but here comes Xandarts with a 4-man Vanguard's Edge and a 2-man Flawless Duet, and the fight is already starting to snowball, all out of control of TLC here, because the Viego is getting kill after kill after kill, and Viego with the resets and Xandarts with the damage is just way too much to handle here for the side of TLC. Blanco trying to play around with Coiled Insanity here, dashes back over the wall, but will just dash into his demise. And dash, demise, and dinner have been served for the side of TLC. And this is the first game from SG Momentum, and we are seeing them come out incredibly strong.
Incredibly strong, and they had made a statement as well.
As I believe we are going to be transitioning back into what we have available for us now. I think there's something not quite working about your camera. I'm not sure about that, but we will be figuring that out as we go. So, left we have at least one game. I don't know if we're going to be doing both of the games that were going on at this time, but at least one game will be available. So, let's check and see which games we do have available for ourselves, as they might both still be going on at this current point in time. And those games are Arctic Hollow versus Gentle Monkey and Flash Forces versus Runtime. And I believe you're back, and beautiful. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about what you saw in this game.
Well, we saw Diego being incredibly strong, and the Lilia pick as well, also being one of the Lilia top at least, working against the tanks, working out beautifully for them. Same as the Irelia as well, just a really good strong pick, especially against the Annie. The pick definitely favored them, and she definitely, really definitely was able to utilize, not utilize, but was able to capitalize on that matchup as well. As for the bot side, they did what they needed to do. Bentoto and Flay just doing as they needed to just scale up the game, and they just and it worked out beautifully. TLC, he did put up an okay fight. Alago, on the other hand, he did a pretty decent job, given what he was given. Top lane was, I mean, I'm sure he doesn't play against Lilia top often, so it was a bit of his first time for him as well. Wonko doing his best as he could with the cane. I think he should have had more early game presence to try and get his team an early lead, especially since he got those 2 early camps on the Raptors and the red buff, especially as well. So
He did. He actually had a very interesting early jungle pathing, and the answer from Coiled Insanity was to go and look for ganks, and I believe that he's really found advantages through that. And I do believe that we have an interview ready, available for us, and I will be welcoming Xanderts to the caster room. You had your first game with SG Momentum so far. You coming in as some would say tournament favorites with some absolutely outstanding caliber of players, and you yourself as probably the highest ranked player in the tournament. How do you feel about after you're playing your first game?
I mean, for sure it was a great game. I thought call it a banger. How do I feel? To be honest, I don't really want to be cocky, but I think it was a fair game. They had their ups and downs. They were actually prioritizing bot lane and doing quite well, but in the end, I think our drafting was impeccable and there was not much counterplay to it.
Well, you looked unbelievably comfortable on all of your champions, and we as casters were like, oh, where are these picks going? Where are these picks going? And then in the end, we had the Lilia top lane. Now, solo lane Lilia is something that has come up more, especially in the past patches, and especially into that Ornn, it looked unbelievably comfortable. But the biggest difference that happened this game was going on in that mid lane and how you transitioned that pressure. How do you communicate with your team when you're in such a big lead and you're trying to win the other lanes for them?
Well, to be honest, we kind of always choose what side to put our pressure on, and especially the Lilia counter pick, because they've actually blind picked Ornn, which resulted in the Lilia counter pick, which is a really good matchup for Lilia. I don't think there's any way we prioritize bot lane. That way, we actually draft the Fasting Senna, which, again, Morgana and Senna, really good counter 20. The T-Burst basically becomes useless. Also, I'm quite surprised we got to see Annie, because Irelia is a really good pick to Annie, so of course I've got pressure and I've managed to transition to top lane. Yeah, that's about it. Two really strong champions, and especially Lilia's mid game, same with Irelia, like their dives and their map pressure, it's like immense. There's not much you can do to it other than just like either use your TP or try to push in waves.
Do you have any questions remaining, Yamden?
No, I don't have any questions remaining. I just want to say really well played by you guys. You guys were able to utilize your strengths and weaknesses really well, and best of luck to you guys in the future of the tournament.
Well, you said that not to be cocky, but you're having very high expectations for the remainder of the tournament. I said also at the start that you guys come in as a little bit of a favorite. Who are some of the teams that you're putting on the most respect, and how do you expect to beat them? Because the matchup against TLC was one that we were all watching very closely. We had anticipating TLC to be a very good team as well. You guys make us think a little bit otherwise.
I mean, yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think that we're definitely looking up to it, skirting called gaming. I think they perform quite well, and I think it's gonna be a really interesting game to see.
CCG, as one of the teams that have sort of gone under the radar for some people, is also sitting at a 2-0 at this point in time and finding themselves in that group A against some of the other opponents. So we will be seeing how you guys fare into them once you actually do manage, or if you do manage to qualify for Division 1, right? We don't want to be getting ahead of ourselves. This is just your first game, and we still have a lot of games to watch for you. I'm definitely looking forward to see you play more, and I'm looking forward to see the comps that you draft, because that was something that did fascinate me. So thank you for having time for the interview today, for coming on, and for talking to us. And I believe that with that, we will only be moments away from our next game, which looks to be Flash Forces versus Runtime. You've seen both of these teams, have you not?
Last time in runtime,
Yes, Flash Forces and Runtime.
I believe so. I do not think I did. I remember Dr. Burrow from yesterday with his Scion pick. I don't remember the other one that you mentioned.
Okay, well,
Flash Forces.
what do you remember about Flash Forces, and what are some of the things that stand out about them?
I do remember their mid laner with the Lucian as well being a really strong laner, if I recall correctly. I don't know if they have the same mid laner today. I'm looking forward to see what their top lane is able to do. We talked a lot about Dr. Burrow yesterday, so we'll see what he's able to do this time around.
We did mention him a little bit in the fact that he actually forgot to buy items level 1, and that is something that we do look to see whether he can actually convert on that today. However, it does look like their draft has already happened, and we get to now look at what they have drafted while they are doing so in the game itself. This means that we can now see that they have selected for themselves a Braum first pick, but that is of course under all of the bans that we see beforehand. We see the Kane Silver and Tom Kench targeted towards the side of runtime, and the Olaf, the Darius, and the Ezreal for Flash Forces. What do these bans make you think of?
Well, it definitely makes me think that at least for runtime, at least they're looking to try and prioritize their top lane, coming out with two jungle and top bans. Later on, they did go for the mid bans, but in terms of early pick, they look like they're trying to prioritize top lane.
Well, then we do see the Braum locked in for Flash Forces, which is promptly answered by a Tristana Lulu. To complete the bot lane, they also draft that Ashe that we saw last game, although unsuccessful, and a Xin Zhao. Another Xin Zhao for you to cast. I bet you're really looking forward to that. And as I look at this draft, there has been no Viego ban, and I mean, we all can see that there's also no Viego pick in the further remainder of this draft. So the 100% presence of Viego does fall through this time around. And then we do see that a Graves jungle was elected for the side of runtime. Do you feel good about the Graves matchup into Xin Zhao?
I'm not too big a fan of Graves, competitively at least, but it will be definitely interesting to see how he plays out this game. He goes pretty even with the Xin Zhao, I think, in my opinion. Xin Zhao, of course, he has a good gap closer, so if Graves is able to dodge that, he pretty much has the upper hand on the Xin Zhao.
Okay, well then let's talk a little bit more about the two bot lanes that we've seen. Tristana and Lulu up against Ashe and Braum. How do you think
Yeah.
that matchup is going to go?
So I definitely think Tristana is going to try and look for some early game kills, especially with the Lulu, to help her out with that. So we'll see how that plays out. Of course, Braum Ash, they have incredibly good CC to peel back or to initiate as well. It's just a good round, safe pick for them as well. So it's leaning more towards runtime, trying to look for engage. I think if they just play back and let Ash and Braum just scale up, it's not going to go too favorably towards them to them.
Okay, well then we move into the second phase of the draft. You told me already how many mid lane bans there were targeted at both teams actually, and then the Set ban as well. Set's been a bit of a flex pick in this tournament so far, so we've also seen it played mid, and yeah. With that, then we see the Malphite blind pick locked in, and yet another team that opts to counter the Malphite with a Sylas. That Sylas, however, will be going blind into the mid lane, and then the Shen will be answering the Malphite in the top side, and the Sylas will be matched with a Ryze in mid lane. Talk to me first, Lee, about the top lane matchup, Shen versus Malphite.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite a snooze fest in my opinion. I don't expect too much action. Both are fairly tanky, and both are fairly do not a ton of damage, but they do a fair amount of damage. As long as both of them just try and ride it out, I think they'll both be okay. Of course, if one wants to be more aggressive than the other, then the other one has to retaliate in such a way. So really, it's a really pretty even matchup, and it'll be interesting to see how play out.
That will be very interesting. Yesterday, we saw a huge struggling performance coming out from Goddessin, who in the previous match had also been suffering in terms of the scoreline, but was actually performing well in the lane itself. The way that he did come back was through the mechanics that he did have on the Echo. This time around, he will find himself on the Sylas against the Ryze. How do you think that matchup looks after this will be his second matchup into a Ryze mid lane?
Yeah, so Silas is definitely a lane bully. So, and the Gaius is fairly weak early on. So I expect Silas to try and make a statement early on to assert that this is his lane and that this is so he's able to farm pretty freely without much trouble. Gaius, of course, he can't just let him do that. So he'll try to fight, but of course Rise isn't that strong early on, and he just needs to scale up for his team for the later game.
That does look to be most of the late game insurance alongside the Graves coming out from the Rise, and then they have the Malphite to try to secure engages in the later game team fights. How do you think in the later stages of the game Flash Forces want to try to win?
In the later games of the game, Flash Forces are definitely going to try and look for a pick, either with the Silex or the Xin Zhao, followed by the Shen ult. The Ash Arrow is also very useful to just try and pick people off as well, followed up by the Xin or the Silas. So that's how Flash Forces, I think, will be playing it later on in the game. Even if they do play together as a team, they have a really good engage as well, with the Shen taunt, with the Zhao engage, Silas as well, or the Braum.
Well, with that said, let's quickly, basically shoot me through all the lanes that have priority in the early game. Give me a rapid fire answer about which lane has priority early on in these 3 matchups.
Yeah, so I think because the Zhao is just Graves is also a really strong jungler. I think mid Dryden's a bit weak, so I think Silas will definitely be a really good, strong early game skirmish along with the Xin Zhao. Graves, of course, you can't count him out. He does a ton of damage if you don't respect it, and so he can also handle himself in 1v2 scenarios as well. Of course, on the top side, I think it'll depend on how comfortable Malphite is doing in the top lane. If he's struggling a bit, I don't think he'll be able to help the Graves out. If Shen's doing really well, then Shen's going to be able to definitely help Xin Zhao out. If they're trying to look for bot side priority, I definitely do think the Flash Forces still has the upper hand just because they have a lot of lockdown CC. Of course, you can't count out the Lulu. It does have the polymorph to stop the Xin Zhao. Tristana also does a ton of early game damage as well, who has lots of kill potential. So if they aren't careful, Tristana might just snowball if they are looking for bot line priority.
Okay, bot lane priority might be taken out of a snowball, if what you're saying. And I find that very interesting, not just because of the theming that the Ashe Braum has of winter and snow, but rather of the Lulu. The Lulu has the ability to obviously augment 1 carry or potentially 2 carries very well, but we've not seen many successful roams coming out from Lulus so far this tournament, as we will be transitioning as quickly as possible into this game. Let me just get my overlay sorted, and then let's jump into the game here. The game between Flash Forces and Runtime has now commenced, and we will be seeing that Dr. Barrow has not bought items level 1. He's walking back to oh my, I cannot believe it! I cannot believe it! That is unbelievable!
Yeah, and, they're looking for an evade too, and that mistake, they already have to bet.
Oh, my head. That is crazy. That is crazy. How?
How does he do it twice? He's just trying to give the other team an advantage. He's just...
Well, at least he has
he's
items now, and he's on the map now, and we can finally focus back on the game. And I don't even want to talk about it anymore, because I want to get it out of my mind. I want to talk about the fact that we do see the Guardian coming out from the Lulu. Yesterday, you told me that you really like to see the Guardian coming out because it does provide so much safety for the AD carry.
It does. It is quite useful. I think on Lulu, that is quite just the correct keystone as well. Because even if you do bring sorcery or... well, if you do bring sorcery, it's not guaranteed you'll always do damage. At least with the Guardian, you will always be able to proc the Guardian in team fights.
Yeah, and the Lulu also standing on top of the Tristana, who's probably one of the best recipients. But in general, the backliners do really love to have that Guardian proc on them. So if you are an enchanter and you do have that Guardian, that does usually mean that you are close to the people that really like to receive that Guardian. We see both junglers start with their blue buff, so on opposite sides of the map, and we will be investigating how they tend to path through the early stages of the game and what impact the Zhao early game can have that the Graves potentially might not. Also electing to go for a Dark Harvest and Flashless Graves. So that is 2 choices that he made in draft that are very confident.
Yeah, you just Graves brought Dark Harvest and Flashless. He's looking definitely for early game kills to just try and snowball as well. Zid, I think, has a better start for here because he's going to be pathing bot, and at least there's more kill potential bot at least, or than there is top because it's a Malphite who's just really but he went to
As you
stun
say
right
that,
here.
Dr. Barrow already finds a huge trade onto the Malphite, proccing the grasp and the auto attacks from that passive extremely well. And now the Xin Zhao and Graves are both moving to the lower quadrants after having fully cleared their blue side. Xin Zhao starting up with the with the red buff first, whereas Graves is opting to go for the Raptors into the blue buff now. And there's actually a pretty similar timing on these two buffs. However, the Graves is already one camp ahead, so a slight tempo advantage that is gained here for the Graves, but Xin Zhao is not happy about the state of affairs with that, as he's already starting to look for a gank, and that is where Xin Zhao obviously flourishes. The bot lane is not respecting this. Wind becomes lightning, immediately lands onto Lulu, who does flash away. Polymorph does not come out as it's not available yet, and the stun will land with the concussive blow from Braum, and that is just a beautiful kill here. The Graves might be ahead one jungle camp, but the Xin Zhao just gets out moments quicker out of the jungle and is able to convert onto a kill with the aggression that comes out from the early game of that pick.
Yeah, it was played out perfectly for blue side. That's what they wanted. He wanted to start on top and path bot. I think he knew that ganking the Malphite was going to be the correct option, and ganking bot would be a lot better. And it turned out when Lulu decided to go face check, she couldn't say purple.
That is true, and especially because the polymorph was not available yet. Penuzo finding himself under some scrutiny, arguably one of the star players of that lineup that is Runtime and that have come together for this team. Yesterday having an absolutely outstanding game on the Ashe, but today finding himself under a little bit of early game scrutiny and already down but 12 CS early on. Barrow is still looking for more trades, but the Graves is not keen or not a fan of that, as we do go back to the top lane, and Barrow is dropping more and more HP as he's trying to dance around the minions to block more of the Graves' auto attacks, flashes behind or away from one of the auto attacks, as the Silas is straight up looking for the kill onto the Malphite. Cannot quite convert yet, but the second activation of the Q does find that kill. Barrow also out on the other side of the map. And now the Silence will try to get away, but he might have to execute himself. Goddison with a TP that was supposed to help, but at least he finds himself a kill. He does execute. Rise also having TP'd after, so no TP available for either mid laner. As Xin Zhao might look for this dive down here towards the bot side. Penuzo is respecting it, but the Lulu is certainly not. And two turret shots tanked up for that's it. What? There was no flash available for the Xin Zhao, and he starts tanking it up, and so he just goes down. Yeah, they find the kill, but now they're looking for more dives. They're not happy about that, and this time around, the dive is clean. So let's just say it was a 2-for-1 overall, but there might be more attention shown down towards the bot side. Rise trying to move in, but does not have the Realm Warp available quite yet, so he will not be able to catch up with him just about now. No mana available for Ashe after having thrown out her last Frost Volley that will be enough to deter the Rise from actually coming down.
Yeah, there was a lot that just happened over those short minutes, but I think I'll start off with the top lane fight. You know, there's some pretty big coordination. Dr. Barrow being a bit aggressive, the Gold Sign being able to follow up on his mistake with the TP, and it was able to support him a kill, and they're both able to get out.
Now see that the dragon has been started up with what felt like a bit of a pressure tempo lead coming out from the side of the bot lane of Runtime, but now they are trying to retaliate in full force, as they do not like that Flash Forces try to contest this dragon. Dutch looking for the W over the wall, but the wind becomes lightning will be all that is thrown out there as the Winter Spite. Another ability levied towards them, but the dragon does go over to the side of Runtime as they find themselves their first neutral objective of the game.
Yeah, and bot lane is also extending their lead. I think they're going to struggle a little bit. I think the Ashe and Braum have a really good just lockdown and be able to kill potential onto them. But they're going to have to be a bit careful if they don't want to give out any of these solo kills in the bot lane. Of course, Braum isn't right there yet, but over in the mid lane though, Rise is farming actually really well against this Silence at least.
But then look at the bot lane CS difference as well.
Oh,
so
yes.
we see saltiness not just ahead in kills, but also in CS. And that means that he is about double the gold of this Tristana at the moment. That is pretty crazy to me. Now the Trist is
It
able
is
to
pretty
pick up that
crazy.
cannon minion and is equalizing the gold more and more as the game will continue. But there is still a huge lead for the side of the Ashe as of right now. And Silas on the other end, Goddessin, is up in gold. And once
Oof.
again, Graves finds his way up towards the top side to Dr. Barrow, who does utilize his W to block the initial auto attacks and trying to trade for a kill onto the Malphite here. He does not have 6 yet. Of course, the Shen does, as there is a dive in mid lane in the meantime. They do find the kill on Barrow, and they don't find the kill in mid lane. And now the Xin Zhao, who tried to equalize that play, will just die. And the third kill of that sequence of events goes over. The fourth kill, excuse me, as Rice killed both of them mid lane. The enchanted crystal arrow snipe. That was a nice snipe to at least make
That
up
was a
for
really
some
good
of the
snipe.
failures of Flash forces. I should call them flip forces. Pinuzo has to use the heal here.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than playing Tristana when you're behind. She's just
Okay,
oh.
that is dangerous as the flash is not available, and that will not quite mean that the Ashe does go for that aggressive flash forward as the polymorph was still available. But yeah,
Yeah, right now Lash is level 7, while Tristana and Lulu are still 2 levels and 3 levels behind. So this Ashe would be safely be able to 1v2 them if she played that correctly as well.
the gold lead has shrunk a little bit. Of course, after that sequence of plays did end up occurring, and here comes the stolen realm warp from the side of the Silas as they do find a clean dive this time around onto the Lulu. The
Yeah.
fourth kill now going over to Ashe.
FF is actually playing these dives beautifully bot lane. I think this is like their 3rd dive
Yeah,
onto
but
the
the
bot
first
lane.
one they just went 1-for-1. I don't know about that one.
Yeah. Well, at least they know that they want to dive. So some people they have second guesses.
100% success rate, 2/3 of the time.
That's better. That's better than none of the time.
That is very true, as now they might be caught out in the jungle of runtime here, and the Shen ult is here to at least try to counteract some of the pressure. But Graves is coming in from behind, trying to clean up the Braum first, as the Zhao is looking aggressively forward onto the front line, and now the Graves damage, the AoE he has is quite impeccable. Malphite not being able to join the fight as the TP is simply not available. Now they're trying to go aggressive onto the Graves, but he is kiting nicely, and with the help of Lulu, does secure himself another assist. Now he's trying to kite backwards, kite backwards, kite backwards. They do finally find the kill and are now trying to get out on minimum amounts of HP, and the Frost Volley might also just be enough for Saltiness to get away from Penuzo here, who does not have the rocket jump available quite yet. But in 2, 1, it's up, he jumps forward, and that is at least one more kill, and the shutdown especially over to the side of Penuzo, who finds himself his first kill of the game. He's walking directly past the Silas, so maybe if you check that brush, that could have been more action, but it dissipates.
That was a much needed shutdown for that Tristana right there. If you look at her item, she just has attack speed and no damage. It's worked out beautifully for her in this scenario. I think that fight though, it went really well. That Graves though was healing, kiting beautifully actually against the Xin Zhao and the Shen. He almost had it. Lulu and Tristana though, they were just a bit behind. I think they were trying to catch out the Ashe who was forced to flash over the blue wall.
Yeah, Saltiness sort of saving the other members of his team there, even though he does have to sacrifice his own gold advantage, as now Dutch might be the one called out around the Rift Herald, and it certainly does look that way. Goddessin is here to, I don't know, sort of wave at them? I don't know what his idea is of this play. He dashed forward after his jungler had already died, and that will mean that the Rift Herald will go over to the side of runtime here. A very closely matched game, and a lot of back and forth that is initiated from both teams in equal amounts.
I think there's a bit of a miscommunication there by FF because the jungler was there at the Herald, but his team members were not. On RT's side, though, they definitely won the Herald, and they were all there to stop that.
Oh, they might be trying to reenact that communication actually in the mid lane, as this time around the Braum does look pretty safe for the start of this play, but he is trying to 1v1 the Rise, which the Rise does not seem to mind whatsoever. Graves is here to maybe clean up the amount of kills that the Rise has dealt in damage beforehand, as I'm not sure what I just said, but let's just pretend that it was good. They do find the dragon here.
That was good. Yes.
They do find the dragon for themselves here, and that will put us at a 1-1 dragon score and an ocean rift that will bloom here, bringing all the flowers back to life. Beautiful scenes to look at, but the beautiful scenes are covered in Pinuzo's blood as the Braum flashes away from the Rise and the Malphite. Malphite still having the unstoppable force available and looking happy to dive. Graves also coming out and down, and now they're in a 2v4 situation. The Shen ult is not enough to save Xin Zhao here as the Braum also falls. At least Saltiness finds himself a kill back onto the Malphite, and now
Saltiness is
Goddessin
without
is trying
mana.
to catch up, and Ashe is indeed all out of mana. He does find the kill onto the Rise and is not even going down, and the play is turning completely around as finally Dr. Barra is here. That abduct goes wide. Goddessin might still look to dive this, but is not quite ready to do so.
Yeah, a bit of a misplay right there by RT. I think they a bit overcommitted right there. They definitely did try. They forced to go under that turret because they were stuck between a hard place and a rock. So they had to go up that way, and Ashe was just right there. They pretty much just putting out free damage right there, even though she had no mana.
Yeah, well, Saltiness really stepping up as a sort of star carry this game. 7-1, and it's not just because he's being funneled gold, but there's also a ton of things that he is able to make happen on his own. And someone that we can certainly keep our eyes on as he's up almost 50 CS over his lane opponent.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's building Wit's End next, which I think is
This
pretty
game,
good
I
item.
love Wit's End. This game, I love Wit's End. We had an Ashe earlier that built it, and I was not a huge fan of it, especially because it was built before the boots were finished. This time around, boots are finished. Wit's End looks great. There are 2 big magic damage threats and a Lulu, so I'm loving the Wit's End here. I do still think that Wit's End is a very, very good item in almost all situations on Ashe, but this is making it even better. A little bit more miscommunication coming out as both of them pop their sweeper at the same time. Sometimes it's things as little as popping sweepers at the same time that does make me ask some questions. And what also is making me ask questions is Pinuza's continued over-aggression. He's trying to carry, he thinks he's the carry, but he just does not have the damage available to himself.
He hasn't even completed his mythic yet. He's really behind on CS. And when you play Tristan and you're behind, as I said, you just do not do damage, and you don't play as a Tristan as you generally think as when you're ahead.
I just looked at Barrow CS in there, and it hurt my eyes.
Ah.
Well, they
And
are
the straight
maybe
Braum
looking
might have
for
more.
some pressure in mid lane as the Braum gets engaged on, and the Realm Whip comes out from the Rise, but that will lead to absolutely nothing. Stand United is available, and with a good timing of the ultimate, a Shield Bro shield, and the Braum at the Ashe's side, this man looks almost unkillable.
Yes, for sure. Oh, and
Oh,
here
but
we go.
Barrow keeps on finding this trade, and no matter how much I'm bad-mouthing it, I just cannot deny how nice some of these taunts have been, and how well he's been able to stack his grasp of Undying up. But once again, he finds himself under the pressure of the Graves, who wants to try to make something happen. Maybe Barrow can find it. Now Goddessin's TP is a little bit earlier than the last time around, and Barrow does survive for the moment. Goddessin is trying to catch up to that play as he does steal the unstoppable force under the turret and is just now finding himself in the 1v1 with the Graves. However, the Braum does have something to say about it. Nice little ward coming out from the side of Goddessin to at least try to delay some amount of time. And here comes a huge Stand United that will mean that Lulu has to flash over the wall and polymorph and Wild Growth, but it is not enough. Maybe Pinuza's jump over the wall is finally successful, but once again it is met with just defensive play, and Pinuzo is left wondering what happened to all the aggression as Xin Zhao kills Rice, guys. It's an ace. Everyone's dead. It's an ace. They killed everyone. What happened? Who knows? The flash forces, the flip forces, the coin lands heads this time, and the heads are rolling.
Yeah, that was, I think it was a mistake with Brave. He still had to ignite up. I think if he ignited the Shin, he would have had the Shin, and then if he was able to kill Shin, Stand United would not have been there. He would have been probably successful to kill out the Silas as well. It was really well played by on the Flash Forces as well to rendezvous with the Silas to try and link up with them to just prevent him from dying, and then to counter engage onto that Graves as well.
Yeah, it was. Something that we haven't really mentioned as we see the dragon, their second dragon of the game being taken here by Flash Forces, is the choice of the Lulu, who's actually opted to go for the CSing support item. How do you feel about that on Enchantress in general?
She's going with the
With a tank support item, sort of. The
oh, I see what you. Yeah, I mean, generally as Lulu, that's pretty much a correct choice because you aren't trying to poke too much, especially against a Braum or Ash. You can get punished really well if you step up. So I do definitely think it's a good choice. Generally as support, I usually take that as well if I know I'm not going to be poking too much and I just want to sit back.
Yeah, and I also like it into a lane that has quite a lot of peel back and safety. So good choice here by the Lulu that we do actually like, as the objectives are now falling in favor of Flash Forces, as they feel like with their last play they've secured themselves a momentum swing. And for a team that does like to flip the coin sometimes, that does mean that the momentum is even more important for them, as they can just wrestle people down in 1v1s inside lanes, and that might just be what is happening here, as Goddesson, after having 2 pretty poor performances in the first couple of days, has bought himself a Magi's after just having 10 stacks on the Darksteel. Of course he can't have more stacks than a Darksteel, that is without question, and the Magi's might help him in order to try to really get this game out of control for the side of the Flip Forces. Now they are trying to take those steals away from him, and all of them are gone.
Wow. That was unfortunate. I even saw a question mark ping where Graves was coming into the lane, so I think they knew that Graves was going to too.
Will the Rise get out here, as the Xin Zhao is not quite fast enough, even though the Wind Becomes Lightning was used. They didn't know the Graves was there, and the Graves went out to try to take this fight against the Braum, as now here comes the Stand United to try to protect them. Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes from the Baron Pit, the Dragon Pit, and actually does land. Now a flash forward comes out from Voldemort, as he at least lands the Winter Spite onto the Rise, which does mean that the Wind Becomes Lightning is also secured for the side of Dutch, and Flash Forces find themselves with yet another kill, and the aggression is the name of the game. Yes, he loses all of his Magi stacks, which makes him look a little bit foolish, but at least the rest of the members of the team of the Flash Forces are there to back. I would have liked to see that Stand United come out on top of the Silas, but you know, you can't have them all. You can't win them all.
Yeah, Flash Forces, this game is starting to spiral their way, at least, because the other side, what is it?
Runtime.
Sorry. Runtime, yes. Runtime, they're just lacking damage right now. They Rise is like completely farmed up. Graves is starting to fall off. Tristana is still very, very far behind, and Ash just finished her wits in as well.
Tristana is sitting at less than 6 CS per minute.
Yeah, that's a big oof.
That is a big oof indeed. Obviously, this is not everyone farms super well here in this league, and that is one of the realities that we do have to accept. And there's been a lot of pressure levied towards that bot side, and so there are ways in which I can definitely understand what is going on here. This Enchanted Crystal goes super wide. Wasn't even close to hitting, to be honest. But that will mean nothing for now, as there is no further pressure. We will have to see whether they can punish that in ways of aggressive or defensive play from the side of Runtime, because that Ash era has been
Runtime to try and initiate their fights first with the Malphite, at least, because I'm assuming that's why they picked it for the offensive Malphite ults rather than the defensive ones. But you know,
that has not been the reality so far this game, as we will have to wait and see whether that can be something that they do secure themselves in the further course of this game.
At Runtime, they need to start and try and do something, but it's very difficult with their comp to try and pick some out. Malphite is always having to be in the side lane to try and contest, so he isn't there to make the engages or the picks. So really, you're just left with the Rise to try and portal in behind them to try and make it pick, but yeah, they haven't found an opening for that yet, because the Ashe she is big right now.
Yeah, she is. And you don't even have to take the portal as Rise yourself. You can literally just send the Malphite off on a mission. However, he has stayed most of the game in the side lane. And that is pretty interesting to me, as I don't feel very confident in the side laning ability of Malphite.
Yeah, I agree, especially against the Shen, who's just been able to outtrade this Malphite most of this game as well.
Well, what will happen now is that the fourth dragon of the game will spawn, and Flash Forces is in pristine position to try to collect that one for themselves.
Well, Dragon's up, so I believe Xin Zhao is on it.
Ooh, we do see an Enchanted Crystal Arrow onto the Graves here, which does mean that the jungler is dead, and the Xin Zhao can just take that dragon for free.
Yeah, that was a really good catch by the Ashe and a really good arrow to land as well. This Graves, like, he built his lead, but well, it doesn't really mean much if you're dead.
It does indeed mean that as the Baron is now started up, we will have to see what comes of that.
Alright, so Ashe, Flash Forces are starting the Baron right here. We'll go ahead and see if Runtime is are aware of it, or if they're going to collapse on it. I think Rise is coming over to check. Yeah, they know now, but none of them are in position right now. Shen's in the bot lane. And Silas is going in this Rise. Can Rise get away? He's going to try and portal out, and he does not get out in time. Meanwhile, Flash Forces are just going to go ahead and take this Baron for free right now. So, right now, Runtime is going to have to interesting to see what they can do the rest of this game. Nothing has really gone their way. Malphite is still out in the side lane just for trying to catch up, but what they really need right now is to finally engage or trying to find a fight to try and make something happen, because right now they're just getting picked left and right, and it's not going their way at all. As we can see here, I think they're about to Flash Forces are about to set up a 1-3-1 with this Baron buff. So we'll see if they're
And
how
after
much
some
they want to commit to this fish.
And after some small technical difficulties, I have returned back to the caster desk, caster room, whatever you would like to call it, and we are going to be seeing how Flash Forces can actually try to convert the game into a win for themselves, as they have done so beautifully in their first game, as Dr. Barrow once again finds himself into this 2v1 that he has found himself countless times before in. The Graves not finding the advantage every single time, as the Malphite ult does land on him. Here are Braum and Xin Zhao in order to try to clean up the fight, and Goddessin has come from the flank and does have the Malphite ult stolen, doesn't even need it as he picks up both of those kills for himself, now up to 16 stacks on the Magi's, and finally it looks like the Magi's was worth it.
Yeah, they were trying to look for a pick right there, but Shen is not the pick that you want.
Oh, here is an aggressive Malphite ult, not from the team you were asking for, but an aggressive Malphite ult nonetheless. Flash backwards by Pinuzo, who tries to get away from this immense amount of pressure coming out from the Flash Forces, who try to look to open up the base here. And what else can they find? They do have the Baron already available for themselves, so the Baron buff minions will be streaming down this top lane, as well as in that mid lane. They are now looking for the dive onto the Rise, as the Xin Zhao is already tanking up the turret, so Ashe can move in freely and Saltiness can assist. Saltiness started up the game so solidly, holding on for his team, and now he's just watching everything blossom in front of him. What a great game we're seeing from him. An aggressive step forward. She's tanking both turrets with the stand united, as you mentioned correctly, and now they're looking for the other two turrets that are still left inside the base. And they are still looking for the win here. One turret goes down as the rest of Red Team is slowly starting to respawn, but there are still about 15 seconds death time. An aggressive Malphite ult at long last for the side of Runtime, but Flash Forces find themselves a win with a lot of back and forth in early stages of the game, but they do manage to wrest the control of this game with an aggressive playstyle and a beautiful performance coming in here from Saltiness.
Saltiness definitely showed up this game. The whole team of Flash Forces did. It was a bit of a coin flip from there, but once they were able to get on the same page, it was just a train that was not going to stop.
Yeah, they did roll over them. Let's see if one of the Flash Forces members is willing to give an interview today. As I can ask that, and you can, in the meantime, tell me a little bit about what happened in this game and the story and generally what it may mean for the league.
Yeah, so I think it started off okay for the Graves and for RT as well. Unfortunately, they didn't it was just Graves that was showing up to the fights, and no one else aside was able to really support him in that. They were just all too far behind to really do anything. As I mentioned before, Sonic can't fall behind, or she's just gonna fall into irrelevancy, and that's exactly what happened. Um, as well, I think it should also be mentioned that Flash Forces, like, they had numerous dives bot lane as well, and they executed those. Well, most of the time they executed those pretty dang well, and they were successful at least 2 out of the 3 times. Well, or 3 out of the 4 times. That's how you
Most
wanna
of the times.
find
Most
it.
of the
Yeah,
times.
most of the time they were able to do it. So, I think you should definitely be careful. Though the Braum and Ash, they today we've seen them both work out today in both games. So I think we should definitely look out for those picks in the future and see if this is just a good strong pick in general, or if it's not, or if it's just the matchups they face against are just too weak for them.
All right, let's get this interview going. As we now have with us the chosen one. Welcome to the casting room. You had, it was your first game today?
No, second. I was jungler, so for the first game.
Yes. Sorry. It's a little bit confusing for me with the Discord names and the in-game names. We will.
Yeah.
What shall we refer to you as?
You can say just Dutch. Dutch is
All right.
fine. It's the in-game name as well, but make it easier.
Well, you just had an absolutely. I mean, what an interesting game that was. A lot of back and forth, a lot of flipping, and there was one guy on your team that really did not want to lose in saltiness. He was not going to let you flip that game away from him.
No, true. Before the game, we talked about how we should play because the first game was a bit sloppy. Second game, they played with 2 substitutes, so it was a bit of a weird one. I wasn't there myself, so I couldn't really say anything about it. But we said our bot lane is pretty strong. We should probably draft a Shen or a weak set top lane to play it to go away from it. And we saw the pathing from the Grace, so I decided to start blue side, and our bot lane did a nice stack of the way, so we could dive and actually get them ahead. Pretty good.
When I saw your early game pathing, you coming from that red buff, the Graves was just a camp, just a little camp ahead, or just a little bit ahead, and you just said, no, I'm Xin Zhao, I have to make this gank happen. You waited in that bot lane bush for just the perfect amount of time. They didn't have polymorph yet, and you went for it, and it worked out just beautifully. And seeing that early game aggression from these junglers, especially when they play picks like Xin Zhao, and you understanding it that well, it's just so nice to see to me. But before that, one crucial moment that I kind of want to forget happened in the game as well. Barrow forgot to buy items level 1 again.
Yeah, I was saying to him, Barrow, don't do it again. Don't forget your items again. I was saying about him yesterday. Did you forget to buy items yesterday? I was like, yeah, it's a strat actually with Sion on your base. I was like, is it a strat again now? Oh no, you literally forgot to buy items. But about the early game with the Graves, I'm a Graves player myself, but most games played on him as well. So I kind of know how the Graves plays and how he wants to do shit in the early.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided just split the map. Our bot side had a really good early laning. They made sure their bot lane couldn't get level 2. They zoned off the wave. And they just stacked the wave nicely so we could make a play and just dive. And after that, we can re-dive as well. Actually keep playing for that side. It went really well, as you could see.
What would you like to ask, Yamdan?
Yeah, so you not only dived them once, but you did dive them twice and 3 times. So was that all planned out? Were you guys initially going to have committing to this 100% from once you guys got the early game lead, or did it just happen to pan out because you were in the position at the right time?
I think the idea was to go top to bot and look for a play there because Braum Ash is pretty good, especially with Braum Q. If Braum Q hits, you can actually get after it and the stun. We knew that Shoshana went with cleanse, so we tried to focus the Lulu first. But when we saw the Graves sticking top lane for so long, we thought just let's go redive this. They aren't respecting it, so we just thought let's keep playing from bot and see where it goes, because top lane was just holding his own, so we could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I commented earlier on how flippy I thought the game was, but what really was behind it was a very solid game plan that allowed you to go for that, and then of course a stellar performance coming out from the side of your AD carry, and so everything, just understanding your playstyle and then playing for that, drafting for that as well. Beautiful draft here. It's just amazing to see to me. You want to play for your tendencies. You don't play to not lose, you play to win, and seeing that from your team is just amazing to see. Are there anything else that you would like to say as you're now sitting at 2-1 and you're qualified for Division 1?
Yeah, and I said, I wasn't there yesterday. I said to the guys were like a bit annoyed because we play with 2 substitutes. It's a bit annoying. So I said to them, guys, come on, we just win next time. We go into Division 1 or we go Division 2, just smash them. It's fine. We just play tomorrow. We play tomorrow. We go Division 1 and we get the rematch because we scrimmed the guys they lost to yesterday and we won 2 against them. So I think next time we play against them, it's fun. I had a bit of trash talk back and forth with the guys as well. So it may be a nice and a cool match to see what happens next time.
A little bit of a grudge match already going on. I'm looking forward to see it. Yeah, I'm really excited to see you guys play. I'm really excited to see how this will all continue, and I will be looking forward to the future and to see you face up in Division 1. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for the casting, guys.
And with that, we have wrapped up day number 3. There's still one game that wasn't cast. There are no VODs for it available yet, but we will be doing that tomorrow. That is Arctic Hollow versus Gentle Monkey. Gamdom, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you for doing all these games with me. What are your closing thoughts? What are you like? You go to bed, what are you thinking about?
I definitely think that we're starting to see comps are being a lot more relevant than we initially thought. We thought comfort picks might be safe, but as it turns out, comfort picks don't work out 100%. And we're starting to see the teams that draft better are actually starting to capitalize on and starting to win on it. Especially these comps that are able to have hard engage and have hard CC or lockdown as well. These try and pick comps aren't seeming to work out at all, as we've seen recently at all, really.
Yeah, the dive is really the meta that we have here in SLE, and I think there are good reasons why. Then talk to me a little bit about what you've seen coming out of the jungle. Sort of as a final thought, I think jungle is what the meta revolves around the most. What do you see coming out of the jungle at the moment?
Yeah, so I think the junglers that are able to really establish themselves as a good presence to try and get these early game leads. These guys are the ones that have been making the most impact. This game we just saw, I mean, Graves has a lot of good early damage and early game presence, but he falls off really hard because he can't provide any like sort of engaged CC later on to the game as opposed to Xin Zhao. We saw the reason why Diego is banned so often is because he's just able to provide both the damage and the engage as well, as along with that early game presence too. So we're starting to see junglers are, of course, they don't need to be like the first game we saw. This one of the junglers go like 0-5, but it didn't really matter because they still ended up winning it. So we're starting to see the junglers that have more of an impact on the game as a whole, rather than the ones that are just able to accumulate a bunch of damage and kills, are starting to be the ones that are going to be the strong ones in this league.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and it makes me happy to see that sort of form and to see that form across most of the games, most of the sample size that we have, which is not quite so large yet, but it will be in just a few weeks as the SLE will continue. We will be wrapping up the final matches from the group division, I guess opening tournament, and we will be seeing which teams will end up in which place. Thank you, everyone, for coming, for tuning in, for watching day 3 of the SLE, for watching all the previous days. I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Good night.